You can. Okay, it's a little after 5, but apologize. One of those things a regular council workshop, call meeting. We have a public hearing first, and that's for the vertical expansion of the Tifton County landfill. And we have a special recorder here. They're just going to do some special stuff. So I will turn this over to Ricky and the attorney.
This is going to be a public hearing on a vertical expansion of Tifton County landfill. First of all, I'd like to have Ricky just give up his presentation as far as what this means, and then we'll invite public comment.
Okay, vertical expansion of the landfill. I don't know how many are familiar with our landfill. The shape of the landfill basically is just going to change. The landfill is built on a terrace right now. All will come back in and fill in the terraces and make one large slope. And that's what you call vertical expansion. We're not expanding out any further into any other properties that we have. It's just going up and on the sides of the slope that we have. We have Michael Stubbs here from our engineers at HNT, and he will present to you the public notice about the vertical expansion, which is required by EPD.
Good evening. My name is Michael Stubbs. I'm a registered engineer from Georgia and one of the principals at HNT. I am responsible for this application that is currently pending in front of EPD right now. According to Department of Natural Resource Rule 391-3-4.024C6, submission of written verification at a public hearing was held by the governing authority of the county or municipality in which the solid waste facility requesting the modification is located, not less than 2 weeks prior to granting approval of the modification. Submission of written verification that notice of such hearing is posted at the site of such facility and advertised in a newspaper of general circulation serving the county or counties in which the facility is located at least 30 days prior to such hearing shall be provided to EPD, and a typed transcript of the hearing must be provided to EPD. So essentially the way this works, anybody that have a comment on the record gets to say it, it gets recorded, it gets submitted to Atlanta. They take those comments under advisement as they are reviewing the application. The vertical expansion, just like Mr. Hobby said, is essentially we stay in the same footprint. We're asking for a 30-foot height increase from the permitted facility height, and that would add about approximately 900,000 yards of airspace, and at current tonnage receipt, about 10 years of increased life in the facility. With that,
Thank you.
All right, this time I'd like to invite any public comment on this vertical expansion of the Tifton County landfill. Anyone would like to make any comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
Could you please state your name?
Mariana Kazoo, City Council District 1. After 10 years, when this is complete, what will we do then? Put grass on it?
the current regulations and the ones that we're covered by now require a final closure cap, and it is, among other things, a composite liner with both a clay, geosynthetic, and a soil on top that, in the end, is grass, but there's actually a geosynthetic cap underneath that grass.
Right?
Any other comments? Mayor, I see no other comments. I accept the public hearing closed.
Public hearing is closed. And we will begin our workshop, our committee report for Jeffrey Daniel on HPC design guidelines and business signage requirements. That committee report, that's right.
We're going to meet anywhere, just anywhere. After we all kind of got together and put our heads together, we come up with some things we'd like to present to you guys for consideration. Let's address the LDC first. As proposed, the proposed changes to the LDC, what we would like to see is take and just refer to the HDC manual in the LDC. That way, if there's any changes or what have you that come forth, it's a little easier to make those changes rather than having public hearings and so forth and so on. For example, on section 7.03.00 is okay, it's this proposed. 7.400, do not make the addition proposed, it is covered under the previous one. 7.16, we would like to see paragraph A be removed, the following statement be removed. Shall count towards the maximum aggregate sign limits. Basically what that's saying is that if you have a temporary sign, it has to fall within your signage parameters. We would like to have one sign and then a temporary sign as well.
Let me stop you right there. Julie, you got all this? Where'd you get that from?
This is my LDC book, and then, Rob had sent, I think this information was sent to the city attorney, and then it was sent out.
Okay.
Well, I would like to say, is this the same thing that we went over in my office?
Yes.
And.
Okay, so this is what we saw in the email.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay.
I sent everybody an email with attachments
All right.
that we discussed.
Okay.
So what you're basically, I think what you're hearing is basically what you've already seen.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
That's right.
Yeah, I just brought my book, because I have to follow
Well, that was smart.
This is stuff that you've already seen, we presented to.
I'd like to get on this thing and see.
Good luck.
Anyhow, without going through the rest of that, you guys got what our recommendation was on that. Basically what we're saying is, what we'd like to see is for the Historical Preservation Committee to modify their rules and regulations to allow temporary signage, and the temporary signage be as follows. Temporary signs within the historical district are appropriate for businesses in the areas marked on the temporary signage map, which I will get to in just a second, and shall be in addition to the main signage. A COA must be obtained only one time for temporary signage. A business can choose one of the following, just one of the following. They can have a banner / flag, however you wish to categorize those things. It has to be professionally made and not exceed a total square footage of 24 square feet. Or they can have 5 political signs. Each political sign is not to exceed a 2-foot by 2-foot square, which is 4 square feet. That's a total of 20 square feet. They can have one or the other, but they can't have both. All temporary signage must be kept in good visible condition. No weathered, torn, or extremely faded signs will be allowed. All signs must be fixed and not allowed to twist or tangle up within itself or any other object. In addition to the Historic Preservation Committee, we must reevaluate the signage map every 5 years. And the signage map is what was sent to you guys, kind of what we see as a good fit for, it encompass, I would say probably 95% of the businesses downtown. And that signage map would probably need to be, as I stated, reevaluated every 5 years because of growth and what have you. In addition to that, the following bullet point needs to be added to the sign category. LED sign is allowed in the temporary signage district only and must meet the following guidelines. Total LED signage cannot exceed 6 square feet. The scrolling speed must comply with city and state requirements. Brightness must comply with the city and state requirements and can only be illuminated between the hours of 8 and 6 p.m. 8 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Is this a discussion time, or is it just a presentation of
Well, I
information?
think, my understanding is that what Jeffrey wanted to do is just come up and give you where they are, and that's what I have given you to in the email. We've had several meetings, probably about a month ago,
Yes.
and I met with Jeff and Kim regarding what he's discussed today. And so, as you may recall, Marianne, you wanted to look at entire Chapter 7.
I did.
And so what I did basically was try to give you the information from this committee and let you look at that. You've already had what we had prepared as far as recommendations. I think we've also gone through various other historic signage, model ordinances and other jurisdictions for y'all to look at. So really, at this point in time, we're still in a position to kind of getting input, let you all look at the various options, and then what we would like to do is come to the council with a recommendation. And but I didn't want to do that until you all had a chance to look at all of Chapter 7 to see if you wanted some additional revisions made to Chapter 7, so we can do it all at one time. So that's kind of where we are.
One additional thing I think we need to look at, to consider, is the fact of the HPC committee itself is primarily residential people only. I think it would be beneficial for both city council, HPC, Tifton in general, if at least half of that committee was made up of business owners that could have some type of business presence dealing with signage issues and
Are you a business owner, Jeff?
I am.
You need to apply for the HBC.
I have.
Oh, yes, okay. Well, all right then.
I have a couple of comments I would like to make.
Oh, sure.
One, when you talk about political signs, I think you need to change that terminology to political type signs, because if you leave it as political, the only thing in strict interpretation that would be out there would be vote for me.
Right.
You know, and so I think you ought to use that terminology, political type. We all know what you're talking about.
Right.
But I don't think it ought to be just political. The other comment is that the sign ordinance now relates, when it refers to temporary signs, it relates to an event. And the only thing that's allowed is something related to an event, which is a temporary event.
Right.
And the signs should be taken down. That is not what you all want or need, in my opinion. I think what
Correct.
you need is the ability, so I would change the word temporary sign to non-permanent, because I think that's what you're getting at.
Right now, when the development code, we do not have temporary signs. According to the LDC at this point in time, all you have is certain square footage. And it's,
Well, can we call them non-permanent rather than, I mean, does that make a difference to you as a lawyer? I'd be interested in that.
well, it really depends on what you want. I mean, I think this discussion developed around the idea of banners.
Right?
And, one of the things that we've discussed is that perhaps banners should be permitted.
Right.
And, to advertise, even in the historic district.
Right.
Then you start getting down to, would banners be appropriate in all of the historic districts, or just in the, when I say commercial areas, I mean zoned commercial areas. So that's where we start getting to this idea of temporary signage and talking about banners. I'm not sure that we're really talking about temporary signage. I think we're still talking about your overall square footage. But I think what Jeff is saying is that we want to be able to have a banner in addition to the square footage that we have now for our signs. So you have your signage requirement and your square footage, then we get to have a banner, plus a banner with this square footage.
I think maybe the proper terminology, Marion, might be, rather than temporary and non, that would be permanent and non-permanent. Because you do have a permanent sign. For example, your sign that's on the corner there that's affixed to the ground, that's not going anywhere unless someone runs a car through it, is permanent.
Right.
But your banner, which might reference, a special you have on a particular day, could be moved.
Right.
So it's non-permanent. Is that the difference?
Quite frankly, when I think, if you say that, just say theoretically, you say every business you have one banner,
Okay.
then it doesn't make any difference if they have this banner one day, they take it down, and throw the banner up. I don't know if you say, I don't think you need to say whether it's temporary or permanent. They have a right to put it up, period.
So it doesn't matter if it's permanent or not
That's
permanent,
right.
it's the same
They
banner.
can make a decision whether they have a temporary permit. But I think what you're looking at is, do we allow the banners? If we do, how many? And then how big? And when?
In the land development code.
Well, that's the question. I think what Jeff is saying is, if you go, a certificate of appropriateness, we go and get our COA for this banner. What Jeff is saying is that once I've got that permit, from HPC, I don't want to have to go back and get another permit if I want to change out my banner.
As long as it meets the same,
Yeah.
it's still a
Right.
X by X size and it meets
Right,
the
I mean,
okay.
I would think that Jeff would agree that if he had one type of banner that he's presented for a COA, he got the COA, but then wants to change it to maybe something that is
It was a purple
multicolored.
banner and now it's gonna be a yellow banner, or
Right.
something like that.
I think with the understanding, just thinking through this, is if you go get your COA for this banner, and you're gonna swap out that banner with a similar banner, I can see why you wouldn't need to go back to the HBC and get another COA if it's gonna be similar. So,
Well, even though the land development code does not refer to this, the historic guidelines do.
They do.
And they relate or equate temporary signs to things that are events
And
that are
events.
temporary.
right.
And I don't think that's what you want. And I think what you want is the chance to advertise haircuts for men on Mondays. And so, we need to change, I know you said let's change the HPC guidelines rather than the manual, and I agree with that concept, because it's certainly easier to change, but that's got to be, to get to what you all want, you got to, work on that.
But I do think that the city permits currently allow outside of the historical district, they do allow banners outside the historical
I'm
district.
not right,
And I think what we need to do naturally is coordinate what the LDC says that we just passed last July,
that's right.
and say, okay, how is our new LDC, coinciding with the historic district manual? And so when we start talking about these ideas of temporary signs, it's referenced in the HPC manual. I think when we start looking at, how we're going to deal with the signage issue, as we talked about, we've seen some other historic district signage guidelines. I think that's where, we need to not only address it through the LDC, but also address it through the historic district manual, so they all, gel and are basically saying the same things.
Yeah, well, we need to work on the HPC guidelines to get what you want accomplished, and I'm in agreement with that.
And that's why I really would encourage you all, again, if you haven't, to look at the Salt Lake City guidelines that y'all have, which I thought were good. It does allow, talks about banners, talks about illumination, all the issues that we're dealing with now. And I do think that, if we look at those guidelines, look at, what we want to accomplish, I think there can be a happy medium that everybody can live with.
Well, I also think in the land development code, I think it's either 7.16 or 7.17, and I didn't bring my book, deals with illumination, and part of your memo or suggestions deals with that too, and that needs to be seriously considered.
I believe that you should have, the HBC in some areas should have the ability to give a COA for different type of illumination rather than just direct illumination in certain areas of the historic district. They should have that leeway to make a determination that they can have other type of illumination be appropriate for certain areas and certain buildings.
Yeah, but I think that the land development code itself on illumination with the entire city has some changes that need to be made, and I do.
And I'll be glad to, I said, that's what I said, we need it, if that's the case, we need to look at all of that, and I'll be glad to make any changes that you all would like to see made. I think it would be a good idea that if we are going to make those changes as to the historic district, and there's other areas that we want to address, that we go ahead and do it wholly rather than piecemeal.
Rob, can you remember when we were first looking at this, you gave us the, and I don't know what I did with my Marion, I don't know, trying to find our information that you had handed out to us regarding all the studies that were done on scrolling signs and lighted and illuminated and,
Yes.
LED, all that stuff. Can you send that back out? I've misplaced mine, and I know that was something that was real important to us when we were doing this.
And that's one of the things that when we first adopted the sign ordinance, it was important for us to look at these various studies as
That's
far as
right.
the type of
Yes.
signs, lighting, scrolling, flashing, and how it affected public health and welfare. And so when we did do the sign ordinance, we all
I
looked at
know
those
we
studies.
analyzed that.
We took all that into consideration and said, okay, this is what we want. Now, I would urge council that if you decide that you want to take another look at certain parts of that, again, be cognizant of these studies and why the ordinance is what it is, as far as dangers that can be attributable to certain types of signs.
And those studies were using research that was not absolutely current to 2012 or 11 or whatever.
That's right.
It was several years old.
It had been so many years.
And I want to find out from somebody, and maybe you're the one to find out, exactly what are the state requirements concerning brightness and speed of changing? So on any kind of sign, electronic sign. Who would know that?
I can find that out. I
One of
don't
the
know-
sign companies in Tifton.
I don't know if there are any regulations on signage, but I would look. I think this, DOT probably has some.
Now, I would like to know what the Georgia requirements are.
Okay, I'll be glad to do
Jeffrey, how many people were on that committee we put together? That was a cross-section of folks.
Mayor, just so you know, we had two kind of separate, I think Jeff formed a committee of folks, and then we had some other people that Larry and Bert got together. Those had some business people, and some HPC folks that I was involved in that kind of.
Well, the thing that Jeffrey's got is what we were sent for the changes.
That's right. That was pursuant to the meeting that Kim Caldwell came and gave it to me, and so that's why I wanted to give it to y'all.
So
so you look at it.
if, Mr. Attorney, if one of us, or if any of us wanted to just adopt what Jeffrey and them worked hard on, that was kind of the consensus, was that let the people in the community study it. And that's, in fact, you have made the recommendation. And that's what happened. And they've done some hard work, and they've presented this. Can we just adopt that at the regular meetings?
Well,
that they
that's
put
why I
in?
was asking if this was for discussion, because there's a couple of things that came out of the recommendation, and they're very minor. I don't think it's gonna have a negative impact, if you do what I want to do. I don't even know what to say. I had just a little bit of issue with the map, exactly where those boundaries were, and I sat down and looked at, in particular, Park Avenue. I know Park Avenue, both sides of Park Avenue, from 12th all the way down to, I guess, around 82, and I don't have that map in front of me, but was a little disconcerting to me because there really is a larger presence of residences on Park. Now, on Central and Love, that's a different story, but Park Avenue in particular was predominantly residential. Even though that area is zoned RP, it has still maintained its residential basis, for lack of a better word. So I had a little bit of an issue with that.
So if we was to move the boundary, say from Park to both sides of Central,
That'd be fine.
with the understanding that in 5 years, we look at
Reevaluate,
everything.
and if in 5 years, because the zone, you gotta look at zoning as well,
Right. And we're not interested in changing
I know,
zoning.
I know. But what we've got to be careful of is maintaining, for those RP areas, we don't want it to look like the zoning's been changed, when in
Right.
fact it hasn't, because now we've got all the signage. So
Right.
that's my concern too. So to look at Park Avenue, which has, and there are some businesses there, there's no question, because they're there by zoning, they have the right to be there. But there is still a strong residential base on Park Avenue. So I'd really like to take Park Avenue out of the map with regard to where the signage can be. That might be a compromise to do something.
And your residential is more on the, and I understand what you're saying, your residential is more on the west side of Park than the east side of Park. Either go both sides of Central or from the east side of Park over.
I think it's just sort of easier if we
Yeah.
just sort of take Park Avenue out of it. Central I have no issue with, whatsoever.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson's raising his hand.
On the Park Plaza, which is next to the post office, is its own park. And it has a variety of different types of businesses, and they periodically change the tenants. So, signage very much
But if you look at the whole of the park,
Yeah.
as I'm saying, I know that there are businesses there, but the majority of Park Avenue is residential. So, but it could be reevaluated, you know, if that tide turns over the next few years, then
I mean, I might have a tenant now that wants to put up a banner. Well, I have had tenants put up banners.
Maybe it would be appropriate to include the area from Fourth to Second Street in the map that Mr. Daniels presented. Because that's all a park.
That's a good
That's all.
point.
And that was my next thing, we could.
We could zigzag around.
Whatever,
Okay, y'all want to change that before our public meeting,
we can do that.
and you can get that out to us? That
This
change?
will need to go before planning and zoning. So what we need to do, you know, basically what I had done was giving y'all just the information that I had received. Generally, the way we work through this is that, you know, we would develop something from staff, take it to planning and zoning, and then that planning and zoning, you know, make their recommendation to council. So I kind of think that, I mean, I don't have anything at this point in time definitive. I guess, you know, if you want me to take what's been presented and put it in the form of a staff recommendation, present the plan, don't have to sort of do that.
Yeah, because they put a lot of hard work on this.
Yeah, Jamie, but that's just that committee.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I think there's still some more discussion.
Just so I think everybody's on the same page, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as the committee that you're reporting on, there was not members of the HPC in that committee.
No, there was no members of HBC. There was 7 of us, that met and from different businesses and.
So, I mean, it was just 7 businesses that got
Right.
together to form a committee to make this recommendation.
Right.
What I'm saying, Jamie, the committee that we had basically gathered up had, you know, business people and HPC folks. So I think, just so everybody understands that the record that Jeff is here, as I understand, reporting on a committee that they formed of businesses, making their recommendation about what they would like to see. And I don't doubt it, there's a lot of hard work into it.
So will they get to see
Did they
whatever,
have some good recommendations?
so will that committee get to see what staff and all comes up with before we vote?
What I would like to see is that, you know, I kind of felt at this stage where we are, is that this is a living, breathing work in progress, but we're all trying to get together to formulate something that would be good for the business community and as well as the historic preservation of Tifton. And I think what I'd like to try to formulate is something that we have a consensus of both groups, that, you know, everybody is satisfied with, and that we can then take to planning and zoning and have them review it. And I don't know that we've really had we've had discussions, but I don't know, since I've met with Jeff and Kim, all I did with that information at this point in time was give it to y'all. And I think it would be good that we take the information that we got from this committee, get with, you know, and maybe make the committee larger, but let's get everybody back together and say, this is what these folks came up with, let's take a look at it, let's see if we can formulate something.
That's what I was getting at, to
Okay.
get it back to them. They've done such hard work, and get it back to them, let them see what the other group came up with. Then let's boil it down before it comes to us.
Well, I would like for your group to seriously consider changing it to permanent, non-permanent.
I don't have a problem with
And
that.
then we got to look at the HPC guidelines in connection with this, I think.
Could we maybe set next month workshop as the deadline for something to be presented to council as far as an idea of how we can get not only the issue of the signage at HPC worked out, but maybe also give council another opportunity to address any other issues that you have with the sign ordinance. And then if I can get any comments from council in the next couple of weeks about specific issues you have with Chapter 7, and then I can get with Jeff and other folks to try to put together what we think it could be a consensus for the next workshop. And then perhaps if we can't reach a consensus between now and the next workshop, perhaps maybe you could have, what I would suggest, maybe have a representative, maybe Jeff to speak on behalf of the business people, maybe have somebody from the HBC speak on their behalf, say this is what we would like to see, this is what we would like to see, then you'd all hear both sides, if we can't reach a consensus.
I love it. It's good.
Okay.
Any other questions? Jeffrey, thank you. Y'all, all of you. Very good, everybody. Thank y'all. A lot of hours. Now, all that were here for the sign guidelines and so forth, that I'll give you a second if everybody wants to leave on that one. You're welcome to stay, but I know some of you don't want to get bored to death.
I just want to say, I certainly do appreciate y'all taking the opportunity to hear us and to help us with this. It's been a long battle we've had basically, but I feel a lot better about where we are and where we're going with it. We took some pictures in front of Dana Beach, and that's probably what you have in front of you there. This is a town that is arguably the oldest city in the United States. It's St. Augustine, Savannah, and Charleston, South Carolina. I think are all fighting it out, but they say that they were established in 1572. We took some pictures of some of the signage and some of the things that are allowed down in their historical district, and just to give you an idea of what they allow. You know.
Thank you, Al.
But I do appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
All right, good night.
All right, the rest of you all are captured. You're in here. All right, we're going to the next item, which is appeal revocation of occupational tax certification. License, yes, license. And we'll understand more about this. Ron, this is yours. If you want to preface anything before Mr. Johnson steps up and talks to us.
Just very quickly, Mr. Johnson is here to appear to you tonight as a result of
Can
having.
you speak up a little bit? Thank you, sorry.
Okay. Mr. Johnson is here tonight as a result of having his business occupational tax certificate revoked due to an appearance before court for not receiving the proper permitting for some building repairs he was making. According to the information that's in your packet, he was given, he was notified on a couple of occasions, please make sure he properly permitted and things of that nature. I think after the third time, he was doing some repairs without proper permitting and was given a citation. He appeared in court on May 1st, was found guilty. Our code states that when a business is found guilty of a violation, their license is automatically revoked. So because of that, we had no choice but to revoke Mr. Johnson's license. His appeal is to the city council. Okay, that's what the code says. So his license was revoked 2 days ago, and we arranged for him to be able to immediately come before you so that it would be less inconvenience to him.
Mr. Attorney, can we vote on that tonight? Can we vote this? Okay.
So that's why he is here this evening.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Ronna. That
You're
was very descriptive.
Thank
Paul?
Can I ask a question? This is about the procedure and what's the information in the notes. And that is that I know that Mr. Johnson paid a fine following that court appearance. And that fine has been paid. That fine was paid.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was, tell me what that
fine
rectified.
That fine was $216,
Right.
and he paid it the day, I believe, the next day.
And so he has been,
But due to him being found guilty,
okay, you had to revoke the license.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I did put the code in the packet
Right,
for you.
I got that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Paul, if you'll just step forward.
Johnson?
Okay, I'm not aware that I had 3 violations.
No, sir, it did, no, they had just talked with you. It didn't say anything about 3 violations.
As far as my knowledge, this is the only violation.
Right, there had just, the notes in your file just said that they had discussed those with you on a few occasions, but no other violations.
This occurred on April the 4th on 147 Beach Street, which I thought all of that section of town was in the county, and I did not check or verify, I just thought it was outside the city, so I did not apply for a permit. And I was discovered by code enforcement that I was doing the job that I had not gotten a permit on. And so, I was given an option of paying a fine, and I decided I'd rather go before the court to explain that I was not I was under the assumption that I was not in the city, and thought they might have mercy and not have a fine, but was I was pleading guilty because I was guilty, but unknowingly guilty. So anyway, that constituted a guilty charge, and of course I paid the fine, $216, and I thought that was the end of it. Well, the very next day, I got a permit to do a roof tank, $25, and then on June the 4th, I got a commercial permit for $150 permit. And then on June the 10th, when I went to get another permit, that's when I was told that my license had been revoked. That was the first I heard of it. And I was told that a letter had been sent to me, which we later found out had not been. And then,
So that letter did not get to him, Ron?
It did, but not until a few days ago, when he came in to see me about it.
Martin was very helpful in getting everything done and getting them to do tonight. And I don't have any complaint with any city employees. They've always been cooperative with me and always been courteous and polite. So I don't have any qualms with that or any qualms with paying the fine. I do have a qualm with the license being suspended for such a minor infraction. I was trying to deliberately defraud the city of a license, or I was doing construction that was unsound, unsafe, then you got to see that. But for this type of situation, I don't believe that pulling a license is warranted. And in this particular case, the permit I was applying for, the property owner was experiencing a severe leak. And he called me Monday and said that his ceiling had fallen in. So he's encountered probably $300 worth of expense because we weren't able to put a roof on last week. And of course, I had my work scheduled, and so since we couldn't do that job, my employees lost 2 days of work. So it's just a on and on ramification of consequences when the license is pulled for such a minor infraction. So that's my complaint. It's not on the employees, it's on the policy or procedure. But I would like to be reinstated.
Okay, anybody got any questions for Paul? Up here.
What is the normal
Go ahead,
process?
Marianne.
Excuse
No,
me.
go ahead.
Just to go through with me the normal process
Well,
for
this
this
is
being
the-
reinstated.
This is the first time we've had to go through this entire process.
All right.
If you all recall, this took over code enforcement 2 years ago.
Right.
And I think that, in the beginning, they've been very careful to work with everybody and give them the benefit of the doubt. But when someone, I think Mr. Johnson's actually, and I'm not positive, the first person who's been found guilty of the infraction, and our code requires a revocation. So this is our first go at it.
And then what is the procedure for reinstating his license?
He has to appeal before council, and it's up to you all to vote to allow him to have his license back.
Basically,
Upon that, I just change whatever your decision is on the license. That's all.
if you determine that good cause is known to reinstate, then you can reinstate. I think that's what Mr. Johnson is here to tell us, that he had good cause.
Yeah. Ignorance is something on my part.
Well, Paul, I'm sorry that letter didn't get to you, and you had to find out the way you found out,
And I apologize for that too.
But this is, like Ron said, I guess this is our first foray with this.
Well, and I think that there was some discussion among staff and possibly Larry, is this the route that we have to take?
Right.
But it is.
You know, something we might want to do is, as we're looking at, you know, land development code and HPC stuff, is look at that, maybe tweak it, and put on maybe 14 days. And
And
we
we
give them a
also-
certified letter and say, you know, 14 days or 21 days, that way if somebody's working on a project, like you said, he's got a workforce out there, depending on that money, it just doesn't slam them shut, but it gives them a day where they've got to stop.
We also have to look at the International Residential Code and go by that. There is some relation to that in here in your packet. So that's something that we can request that environmental management do, to make sure that it's not just the city of Tifton's requirement. If it is just the city's, it's no problem tweaking it.
Because I know moving forward, just as we discussed, there's always going to be some tweaking, you know, with this thing as we move forward, and I think this is one area where we need to tweak it, for sure.
Well, I think Mr. Johnson has shown good cause for his license to be reinstated, and I move that we do that.
I've got a motion, now a second.
Second.
I have a motion, second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand, saying aye. Aye. That is unanimous, Paul. Sorry for your trouble.
All I
And
have to do is change it in the system, and you're good to go. Okay?
next item is the presentation of ESG operations. Dan Grusell. Dan, you still here? Oh, you're not there.
I'm not Dan, he's Dan. Mayor and council, just to kind of give you a little bit of background on this, as you recall, about a year ago, we outsourced, if you will, the operation of the wastewater treatment plant and the water and wastewater production wells. They've done a phenomenal job of that operation. And we asked them also to look at our inflation distribution system and see if they would be interested in maybe taking that over as well. And they have given us a proposal to do that. We took that before the Service Delivery Coordinating Committee this afternoon. Right prior to this meeting, they presented it to them, and the recommendation from the SDCC was to go forward with a recommendation of approval of them taking over the inflation distribution system. But that has to be brought before council, and that has also to go before the Tifton County Commission, because it's a joint operation. Mary, you were there at the meeting earlier. I don't know if you want to comment or anything, or just let Dan.
No, it was some very, very good information that Johnny and I had. Of course, the chairman of the county commission, and two of his commissioners were there as well. And Dan, I would ask you to move briefly through it. We got a long night tonight. Y'all can kind of give us the highlights, because y'all had some really super highlights.
Great. What we'll do is, the first part, what we wanted to do is just kind of go back through and talk about some of the things we've been able to accomplish over the last few months.
Yeah.
We've come a long way, and I'd like to compliment one, the opportunity to work with the city, and the city staff has been great to work with. Everybody's been real supportive of helping us get this done. This is a team effort. I can't tell you that we haven't, it's kind of like turtle sitting on a fence post. We didn't get there by ourselves. And so we've been very fortunate. We had a lot of good folks at the wastewater plant that came on board with us. They brought a lot of institutional knowledge with them. We've been fortunate to have a lot of the resources to make all this happen. With that, I'll have Scott just kind of, again, very, very quickly, just run through some of the highlights, show you some pictures, good pictures that are kind of of what we've been through.
First off, I'm happy to Dan myself. Thank you. Thank you guys for taking time tonight to listen to us. Very briefly, when we transitioned the water and wastewater staff members on November 1st of last year, 18 people became part of ESG. In that time, we've completed a system-wide conditions assessment. You guys may recall seeing a book that went around a little earlier, the previous presentation that we did, that had some infrared photographs and stuff, vibration readings. We were able to go into the mechanical side of the water and wastewater system and find a lot of potential problems that have been repaired before they caused some sort of failure. So that was a very positive outcome to that. We completed a number of key rehabilitations. Within the wastewater plant itself, there were several key components: the grit system, the influent pumps, some of the controllers that were in there that we went in and made some corrections. There's a lot of work in there, got those taken care of. Basically brought them up to the standard the city would expect. We've also implemented a computerized maintenance management system. It's the same type system that we use all throughout our company to manage a number of the items, a number of the services that we provide, from the water and wastewater plants, collections and distributions, and some of the public works functions that we do. We've increased the revenue through lost water reduction. We've worked with Ms. Donna at the city and been able to bring in some of the specialists that we have that do this for a living. We have a young engineer named Kristen Corson. She's very familiar with a lot of the new metering systems that are out there. And we have an expert named Don North that was with EPD for a number of years. And they come to Tifton about every 2 weeks and work on the water system, making sure that the building is detecting some of the zero consumption, making sure that we don't have any issues there. In the 6-7 months since we transitioned, we've done over 2,000 hours of specific training with the staff. That's only 18 people, so you can imagine that's quite an investment in training. A lot of that is to do with safety, but a large portion of it is to do with very job-specific technical training as well. Also in that time, 31 ESG staff members have been here. Again, it's a local staff of 18, but 31 personnel in addition to those 18 have been in the city of Tifton working with all the facilities, the wastewater plants, the lift stations, water distribution system. A number of experts with different disciplines that they're experts in. We've done everything from look at the hydraulic models to even tailor the chemical dosages for the drinking water. We've also conducted a health fair. Some of the things that are on this list, we've also had employee dinner, a number of other things there. Cost savings, this is where we are right now. After this first, not even a full contract year, we're projecting to save over $450,000 in our first year. The way we go about this, the way we produce this savings, is a number of the complex repairs that would normally be farmed out that would have to be sent to contractors done in-house. We have the talent within the company, and as long as we're in a position to plan that repair work, as it's not an emergency repair, we can bring those resources to bear, and it's a tremendous cost savings for the cities that we operate in. We also utilize the company-wide purchasing network. The area that we deal with, working throughout the southeast, we're very familiar with all the vendors, supplying the parts and the pieces and the chemicals that your system uses. We're able to get much lower pricing traditionally than most cities can. And beyond that, we're in a position to advise our customers on what products provide value, what products have known problems, have been problems for other communities, and through that, we're able to steer our clients to what we believe are the most valuable, the most cost-effective parts and pieces for their system. Also, cost savings engineered solutions. A number of things that we're looking at. The influent pumps are a great example. We had the city's budgeted to purchase an additional influent pump. It's about $90,000 to purchase that pump. And from our engineering standpoint, one of the things that we're looking at is adapting the lift station pumps, which you already own a number of, to function in that wet well. It's a different manufacturer, different style of pump, but the engineer will develop an adapter plate to allow us to move those pumps to the lift stations to the wastewater plant and prevent the city having to purchase items like that, having to purchase these very expensive influent pumps. PLCs, we talked about a little bit the last time I was here, about the controllers that we've put into place. Also, we've done some solutions at lift stations with regard to repairs, affecting some repairs you do with the staff here that would normally have been farmed out. We're able to do that because of the safety training that we do, the confined space, the hazardous conditions training, all the equipment that ESG owns to be able to bring that in and be able to conduct that repair in a safe fashion. Also, operational efficiencies. A number of things that we do, we learn in all the communities that we work in, what is actually cost effective, and whether it's how we test, how we conduct certain tests in the laboratory, how we set up and operate the facilities, particularly the wastewater plant. All those are gained through we'll call it experience, and we're able to bring that experience to bear in the city of Tifton and reduce those operating costs. Preventative maintenance. This preventative and predictive maintenance are the areas where we really do save the most money for our communities. That conditions assessment we talked about earlier, that helps to find problems before they before they do considerable damage or they put somebody in harm's way. Well, and this is a great example. We talked about this a little bit the last time we were here. We have a recent example of this. Last week, we worked on a lift station, a Gun Creek lift station. It's the largest lift station the city has. And through infrared, we're able to determine that one of the leads going into one of the pumps had actually burnt through, or clean through. You can't see it. You couldn't see it with the naked eye. Fortunately, with the infrared camera I got here tonight, on our preventative maintenance, our normal preventative maintenance, with our computer system puts out this work order. We go out and we conduct tests and studies on all this equipment. They're able to detect that before it caused substantial damage. It was likely, we fixed it that day. Had it been allowed to go longer, it probably would have done $10,000–$15,000 worth of damage to the cabinet, plus put the lift station out of service. We would have been guaranteed a spill there. You may recall one of the early items that we did was the digester. Digester rehabilitation, a very critical part of making sure you're meeting your permit requirements at your wastewater treatment plant. It's kind of a picture, that's the before picture, obviously. And here we are in the process of making the repairs. We were able to utilize a number of the old material that was removed during the aeration basin upgrade. We talked about that in the meeting earlier. That material was very wisely kept on site. We were able to use that material to effect those repairs, and for very little cost whatsoever, that digester was put back in service within a matter of a couple of weeks. There it is actually functioning the way it's supposed to work. Influent controller, I believe we talked about this the last time I spoke with you. This is the old controller on the left. This is a $26,000 direct replacement. It had failed, installed in about 2006. The direct replacement was obviously not the best technology available. It's quite an old unit. Doesn't take advantage of some of the advancements. In the interim, on the right, a PLC was installed. It was about $16,000–$18,000 to do that. We brought in our people from Macon, from the Macon area, and we were able to completely build and program and install this unit for a little over $3,000. And it's a far superior unit. Controls a lot more functions, has a lot more safety features built into it. It can monitor the pumps, monitor the whole station if there's a problem. It can alert you before any damage is done. Influent pumps, one of the first items that we did too was to address the influent pumps. This is the heart of the wastewater treatment plant. If these pumps fail, then the sewage, on a day like today, we'll probably treat 1 million gallons of sewage. We really should be treating about 3.5 million gallons. But if those pumps fail, that sewage comes out on the ground. There's no other place to put it. So that's the most critical component as far as keeping the plant running, those influent pumps. Obviously had some operational issues in there. We had 1 of 3 fully operational. This is the item I was discussing earlier. I was saying we're going to adapt your existing, those are 84.5 horsepower boom cutter brand pumps. Your system has over a dozen 77 horsepower flight pumps already in it. They're already in the lift stations. It makes sense to adapt those pumps to that wet well itself. That way you don't have a number of different pumps and you've got spares built in. So we've been able to avoid buying a $90,000 replacement pump. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about I&I in just a minute. What you're seeing is, keep in mind this pump, the scale of this pump, it's hard to see. Here's Don Pate standing next to the Don's a big man. He looks small compared to that pump. So with that pump here on your right, each one of those pits down there, we've cleaned out 2 so far, contains about 7 or 8 cubic yards of sand and grit. It's not in a typical sewer system. You don't want to see that there. This is soil that's come in, sand that's come in from a leaking line or a manhole through your system. I don't have a picture of it in this presentation, but all together, cleaning out the grit system, cleaning out the influent channels, cleaning out this whole front end of the plant, we removed close to 60 cubic yards of sand and grit. It is a staggering amount of sand and grit. I've really never seen an influent station in that type of shape. Also, we had a group of volunteers from our company. You can see Jerry West and Sheila Hewell here on the right-hand side, we conducted a cleaning operation on the tributary of the New River that runs right there between 319 and the wastewater plant. It's only about a 1,200-foot section. It's basically can be thought of as a drainage ditch for the city, is really what it does. Through that day, it's a long day, cold too, we were able to remove a huge amount of material. There's just a tremendous amount of trash accumulated in there. It's really unsightly. Just a sampling of what we pulled out of there. We did on that single day, they're just a 1,200-foot section, very small section. We pulled over 30 tires out of the canal. 4 drums, a couple of them were paint drums, a television, actually a large television. That's the TV being towed in the water there on the right-hand side. A couple of coolers, and overall 2 full truck and trailer loads of trash. So very productive day, and again, it's a very small section. So this is something that we do in all of our communities, and we've had a lot of success with it. We'll move to the next section the next time we do it. Talking about our utility today. The Tifton County Water and Wastewater Utility, it's quite a large, it's an impressive system. There's a lot of land mass served by this system, and there's a huge investment in infrastructure on the city and county's behalf, literally millions and billions of dollars. Currently, we're in the neighborhood of about 11,400 meters. You think about what your collections and distribution guys maintain, what your meter readers look at. These guys maintain about 285 miles of water main. That's a long way. 145 miles of sewer mains, 2,170 manholes. Those are, I think most of those are underwater when it rains, seems like anyway. We also have 1,700 fire hydrants, 16 wells, 8 tanks, 19 lift stations, and over the course of this year, we will provide our customers a little over 1.5 billion gallons of water, drinking water. So it's really staggering when you look at the overall size and scope of it to think that it's managed by, at this time, C&D departments, a little over 20 people. 20 people take care of all that infrastructure. Our proposal, if you look at your water and wastewater system, they're tied together. You really can't separate the two. And they're tied together through the facilities that generate the drinking water, to the pipes that take it to the customers, the sewer lines that bring it back to the lift stations, and the lift stations that bring it back to the wastewater plant. It is a single unit. It really is. As a company, we take a holistic approach to that unit. We understand that changes made at any point along that line will affect virtually every system in there. Part of the thing that we're proposing with collections and distribution is to develop a comprehensive utility management plan. Like I said, this is a major utility. It's a large utility, serves a number of people. What we're proposing to do is to sit down with our engineering staff, with the staff at the city, and to develop a plan that addresses the known shortcomings of the system, includes a period of time where we go out and conduct a number of tests, smoke testing, dye testing, pressure and flow testing in the areas. We catalog the system. We get all this information together. We look at the area being served, what the potential growth is in the area, and more importantly than anything else, we integrate that data with the assessment on the equipment that you already have, and we can project out what our costs are going to be out over the horizon. Not just a year-to-year cost, not just a year budget, hey, we just need a little bit more money than we needed last year, but we look out over a 12-year span, and we look at, based on the actual condition of the equipment, what's this utility going to cost to keep. The other thing is, we use that plan and those costs to alter, to affect how we maintain the equipment. If we have say we have a lift station with some pumps that are in there, at the end of their usable life, maybe 80% used, we will change the maintenance on those pumps to try to extract just a little bit more time out of them. Because these are very, very expensive pieces of the infrastructure. And a utility has to manage them to maximize that life cycle, get the most life out of them. In addition to that, we know, anybody that's familiar with the utility knows that we do have some immediate challenges. I would say top on that list is I-9. It's an abbreviation for infiltration and inflow. It refers to the water that comes into the pipes. It's really not supposed to be there. By comparison, a day like today, we would probably pump 4 million gallons of water out into our system. We're going to sell somewhere around 4 million. We hope to sell. We hope we get the revenue from that. We would expect in a normal utility, with a certain number of these county customers having septic tanks, we expect, if you just look at the raw numbers, to get back a little over 3 million gallons of water. That's what your wastewater plant should have to treat. That's what your pump stations should have to pump, your sewer lines should have to convey. The reality of it is, today, we probably get close to 8 or 9 million gallons coming back to us. That is sort of the scale of the infiltration inflow problems that we have. Another way to look at it is if we get a good, a relatively minor rain, what we consider minor rain, somewhere 3/4 of an inch to an inch of water, we expect, Tommy, myself, anybody that works in the wastewater plant, we would expect to see anywhere from 12 to 16 million gallons of water try to come through the wastewater plant on a day when we should be seeing no more than 3.5 times. So it gives you kind of a little bit of a little concern when you look at those numbers. That affects us in a couple of different ways. All that water, a lot of that water is pumped. At least every good drop of it at the wastewater plant is pumped. So if you've got a pump that has a life of, say, 12 years, under normal circumstances, that's what we would project, you're tripling the run times. And so that lifespan drops way back. These are not inexpensive pieces of equipment. So there is a monetary penalty for not addressing that. It's going to cost a lot more in our system to maintain it, to keep it up, because we're getting a lot higher replacement costs. Also, it affects our ability to treat the water. The wastewater plant is really only rated for 8 million gallons. That's what it can do day in, day out. That's what's permitted. We're able to operate it beyond that to accommodate those higher flows. But the reality of it is, we're not able to produce as clean of water at 12 to 15 million gallons as we can at lower flows. The plant's just simply not designed to do it. Another thing to consider too is that on those days when we hit our peak flows, the plant's taking as much water as it can take in, but there's still more water trying to come to us. That results in spills in our collection system. You may have seen the advertisements in the paper, manholes that run over, items like that.
You're doing a great job. I'm
Speed
getting
it
into a
up.
lot of detail here, and I don't want to bore you guys. What we're proposing is to, expand our relationships with the city to incorporate your collection distributions group. There's a great opportunity here to have an impact on the system. As Scott was talking about, it's hard to quantify, but when you really go out there, the grit you see in the headworks of the plant got there through roots and influence and through a collection system. And when it rains hard, we're getting turtles. We're getting, my attention is we've got 2-foot-long salamanders here, and I've never heard of one, but we thought they were ill. But, you're getting a lot of things that the wastewater plant we should be getting. And what we're offering is that we come in here, work with the existing staff that are out there, and keep in mind, it's never a good environment to work in because you're typically working late and it's raining hard. There's something bad happening when you're out there working in the field. So what we want to do is take a very proactive approach to getting here, addressing a lot of the problems. Let's find them and fix them. We've got some, at the end of the little presentation, we give you some case studies that were in other communities like Waycross and Perry and some other places that, and you guys aren't in this alone. Every community we work in is facing similar challenges. Your collection system, a lot of it can be 50 years old. And a lot of the problems aren't obvious, they're buried. These aren't pipes that you can easily find. I mean, some of the problems are as simple as, if you think about it, you got somebody mowing right away with a bush hog, and they hit a manhole section and it moves it. It doesn't look like it moved. I mean, there's grass around it and all that, but now you've got a major inflow problem. And so what we're proposing to do is come in here, take a very systematic approach to help try to find these problems and correct them. And we've been very successful in doing that in a lot of the communities. The good news is that we can save you around $60,000 in direct cost. We think the real savings, though, aren't that, to me, that's not the real savings. The real savings are moving forward on the avoidance and the flow treatment at the wastewater plant, the opportunity to find and fix these things on an ongoing basis, I know a lot of communities are facing these problems, and there's different trains of thought. Some communities we work with, for example, the city of Augusta, they're gonna spend over $10 million just trying to get their hands around their problem. That ain't to fix it, that's just getting their hands around it, and that's been mandated by the state of Georgia because they didn't take action in a proactive manner. And so that's what we're proposing, is come into the city, expand our relationship, and that's why we wanted to talk about the successes we've had. We've had a chance to work with your guys that are in the synergy groups already. You've got a lot of real good guys out there, so we're excited about that. You know, same thing we found at the wastewater plant. We were very fortunate. We got a lot of really good guys that have really stepped up and done a great job at the wastewater plant. Tommy wanted to give the presentation now. But no, we've been very fortunate when it comes to having good folks out there.
And when we equip them with the technology that we have, with the tools and the training even beyond that, it makes that workforce, that already good folks that are there, that much more effective. I mean, that's what we're proposing to do.
Well, we're gonna bring in folks like we did at wastewater, that this is what they do. They've done this in other places. They're gonna come in and work with the guys on the ground to where you're not trying to figure it out. You're already starting with a plan in place. So.
Right, that's any questions?
So do we want to put this on the agenda for the regular meeting?
Yes, ma'am. But the staff recommendation is that we accept their proposal and that the council would authorize the manager to, and our, their head attorney to, make the modifications to our existing contract and incorporate this into our program.
And you said at the beginning of this presentation that this same thing will be done by the county.
Yeah, it
They
will
will
require
have to
both-
approve it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And your committee that met prior to this,
It was recommended unanimously to go forward with it.
We appreciate what y'all done at the wastewater treatment. Just actually, $450,000 up from you. And, really appreciate that.
absolutely.
Really, really good partnership, Mary. Thank you for leading us up.
Just by going out to the wastewater treatment plant, just visited, I think you guys did a tremendous job in, and what you do it damn good.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. We'll give folks a little bit of time to get out here for that.
See you later, Tom.
Mayor and Council, we have someone here that they want to address the council on item number 5 from out of town. And if y'all would agree to, if we can move that up to the next item.
Yes, move that up to the next item. Well, it would be the first of the discussion
That's
items.
correct.
That would be the guy that you gave out, so who would that individual be?
Ms. Katie Jones.
You want to speak to it?
I'll have Katie come up. Mayor and Council, what we have looked at, and we are proposing as part of the amendment to the alcohol ordinance, is Sunday sales. And you'll see, as you look through the proposed amendment, where we are seeking a referendum for a vote on Sunday sales as to consumption on the premises beginning at 12:30 p.m. until midnight, and then package sales for wine and beer from 12:30 p.m. on Sunday until 11:30 p.m. And I think, Katie, you might want to maybe enlighten the council a little bit about these Sunday sales.
Absolutely, and just in the efforts of time, I sincerely appreciate you moving this up earlier.
Katie, where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta.
Okay.
And with whom do you work?
I'm with the Georgia Restaurant Association.
Okay.
Thank you again for letting me take the time to speak with you. Just a brief background about our association. We're the state's only not-for-profit representing restaurants, and our mission is advocacy, education, and awareness. So basically, we are here to make Georgia a better place for restaurants and to do business and to make restaurants better for Georgia.
Hey, can everyone in the back hear her? Can you all hear? Okay.
Excellent. And also, just for a note, we also provide the nationally recognized Safe Alcohol Training Certification for our restaurant members, and it's to educate them on the responsible handling and serving of alcohol. And like gentleman said, we are in support of the proposed referendum because we believe it would benefit Tifton restaurants and the local economy, because it would not only increase our guest counts, it would also increase the sales that the restaurants bring in. They would also be able to employ an extra few people on Sundays, or even provide additional hours to their current employees. And most importantly, it would increase the tax revenue for the city of Tifton as well. And I provided just some brief numbers in front of you. We looked at one restaurant company that has a location in Albany and in Tifton. And we did just a little examination on the weeks ending on May 13th and May 27th of this year. And based on Albany's sales for May 13th, for example, it would generate an additional $27,814 a year, and an average of almost $2,000 in additional sales tax revenue for the city. And just one item of note is that Tifton actually has a higher guest count for this specific restaurant that gave us their numbers. So these numbers are very conservative, and they would definitely increase for the tax revenue that could come into the city of Tifton. So just general overview. I hope that answers some questions, but I can certainly try to answer any others you might have.
How did you hear about this? Someone from the tourism budget gave you a call?
Yes, someone contacted us, and they had been interested in possibly getting this for the city, and we were more than happy to work with them.
They are representing our local restaurants.
Okay. Of course, what we have to do is, we just have to vote to get it put on the referendum, the ballot. We can't vote to put it in. How many communities do you deal with, dealing with these Sunday alcohol sales? Have you dealt with a good many over the last several years?
Not very many, honestly. A lot of it was just the local cities themselves just decided on their own to put it on their ballots, and so actually Tifton is really the first one that we've actively been working with.
Okay.
Could
Yeah, I was
we,
just
I
curious.
have a quick question. Could we provide your information to our local media? The concern is, I think we need to boil it down to an economic development concern. And so having these very black and white, viable figures, I think are going to be very important. Is that something we could give our local media your contact? Perfect. Okay, that would be beneficial.
And whatever way we can help, our information, we'd be happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a safe trip back.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to, under discussion items, item number 2. Mr. Attorney, I have to ask you something first. When I looked at item number 2, the resolution approving the digest, now I look down here at the fourth, it says, now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and city council of the city of Tifton, pursuant to their authority, do hereby approve the official setting of the millage rate at 9.759 mils for the calendar year 2013 tax statute. I disapprove that. I realize we're voting for something here, but when I hold up my hand and say, yeah, I do, then that's saying that I still agree. I don't agree with it being 9 point whatever. So how do I handle that?
What you're doing tonight, Mayor, is, there has been the certified tax digest,
Right.
and that has been established. Once you look at the tax digest, and then you look at your M&O, make a determination then that, the millage rate as set will meet your expenses. All you're doing is saying you're approving this millage rate as it reflects the certified tax digest. So that's what you're saying, is that by looking at the millage rate, this is correct to meet our expenses. Because what you can do, you can vote for a millage rate increase, And then when you go back and you look at the certified tax digest, if there's big disparity between what that tax digest is and your millage rate, you may have to roll back that millage rate. But when you look at the tax digest and the millage rate, they match, what it blows, a couple $100 difference. So all you're voting on is the fact that this millage rate is adequate and consistent with the M&O.
Well, maybe it's just the wording. Can you go back and rearrange that? Hereby approve the official setting of the millage rate at 9.75. Is there any other way to say that?
Mayor, no, not really. I mean, that's what you approve. It is setting this millage rate based upon the certified tax digest.
Well, if I want to stay consistent, then I just need to vote against it, right?
I guess you can.
I'm not going to vote anything that makes it sound like I've changed my mind, and I agree with what we've done to the citizens of this community. So, okay, just want to clear that up.
But we have to.
And I understand you have
required by
a section,
state law.
yes, you do, and you could have 3 or 4 votes for that. So we will now, resolution approving the calendar year 2013 tax digest and M&O levy and setting the millage rate based on the final 2013 tax digest.
May I ask a question? What would you propose to do without passing this?
Oh, I would have tweaked what Councilman
What would
Harris-
happen?
What Councilman, oh, you mean tonight?
I mean, yeah, I mean.
Oh, no, it has to be approved.
Well,
But I don't have to vote for it because I didn't vote for the increase. And I'm just staying consistent. The 3 that did vote for them should vote for this. That's pretty simple. All the 4. Mr. Fairman, if
well, I would like to ask you, if this vote failed tonight, what would happen to the city of Tifton?
we go to Mr. Parrish's recommendation and we would tweak it a
No,
little bit.
that's not what would happen.
I would have, Mariana, I would not, I couldn't tell you. I would have to look at that.
Well, let
We
me,
have to, this is something that was advertised.
Right.
And we have to.
let me stop you right there, because I hear where Mary Ann was going. If I have to vote for it, I'll vote for it. I mean, I'm not gonna let it fail, if that's what you're worried about.
Well, I
I
am
wouldn't do
worried
something
about
like
that.
that. I wouldn't do something like that. If I see there's some kind of mix up here,
Well, Mayor, as I said, this is what is required by state law. Once you have your tax digest certified, and this is what, you can expect in revenues.
I
And then
understand
you
that.
look at your M&O, and then when you set that, you got to set your millage rate for 2013 year. And all you're saying is, okay, we've looked at this, we've looked at our revenues, we've looked at our expenses, and we've looked at our millage rate, and we're not looking for more money than what we need, than what we've set. as
I
millage.
understand what we're voting on. I just don't like how it's written. But I'm okay to move on, and Mary Ann,
I don't want us to do anything that will.
yeah, I would, if I have to, I'll vote yes on it. We'll see. Okay, Lois, you got your name on your.
Is there anything that you can add that I didn't?
No, I think you added everything. Specifically state of Georgia, and we have met all of our requirements. It was published in the paper for 14 days, so, and we coordinated it with Tift County, and then we have to present them with a letter stating that this is what the council has approved.
But, Mayor, to ease your concern, I don't think there's anybody in Tifton that thinks that you want that millage increase. So-
Oh, you'd be surprised what I heard just today. So I'm getting in front of it anyway. But, okay, well, let's go forward.
Number 3.
Well, we hadn't voted on the numbers.
Well, the resolution will come.
That's right, we're gonna do that at the call meeting. Okay, got you. Number 3, resolution providing for financing. And, oh, yes, the historic mine building. And that's Larry and Lois.
I'm
Double
gonna
team.
talk about the first part, but we'll talk about the last part. You may recall the last meeting we had when, I think we approved me to enter into a contract to make restorations of the mine, but I just had to contingent upon finding the money to make the repairs.
And you were to tell us what the red money was coming from.
Yes, ma'am. We had commitments from the Downtown Development Authority and the City of Tifton in the neighborhood of about $900,000. $500,000 for the Development Authority and $400,000 for SPOS funds that had already been set aside to make repairs. Well, we did somewhere between 1.9 and 2.2 million. During our research on how we could make these things happen, Mr. Wilmot was talking with an attorney that handled was a Jackson County case on how cities and, counties found money to make repairs to buildings and what have you. With that discussion he had, the attorney he was talking to says, "Look, Rob, you don't have to do that, just go to GMA and get to the lease pool." So he called Matt Williams, who was our agent at the GMA lease pool, bond pool, if you will. And Matt said, "Yeah, we can do that, that's no problem." So I thought that the only thing that money could be used for was equipment purchases. Well, come to find out, there's this thing called collateral substitution. Is that correct? And we can do that. We can take equipment that we have already purchased within a certain time frame. We can use that equipment as collateral to borrow the money, and then borrow that money. And once we get the money, he says we can do whatever we want to with it. Well, that's all fine, well and good. So that's what we did. We have 1.4 million, which is what we need to make the repairs to the mine. But as I stated earlier, I was not going to go borrow $1.4 million to make repairs to the mine without council approval. That's when you have a resolution authorizing us to borrow that money. We do have a time frame that we have to get. Mr. Williams has to have his part of that paperwork done by the 25th of July. I did sign the letter to get the paperwork started, pending your decision tonight on whether you want to go forward with it or not.
It's an effective 0% interest.
That's right.
Okay, 0% interest. And it is to be paid back in 5 years.
Right.
And how are we going to pay it back?
In the resolution you have before you.
Right. I just want you to state it and explain it.
I know. What it says is that we're gonna spread the cost of the borrowing of those funds across all 5 operating funds within the city of Tifton, so that the general fund, or the tax dollars, if you will, are not the only dollars being utilized to reimburse the loan or pay back the loan. It will be spread across the water fund, sewer fund, gas fund, and solid waste fund, and the general fund. And if I recall correctly, those payments were about $56,000 for each fund.
56?
Yes. Annual payments.
Yeah.
So that's how we do it.
What effect will this amount, I mean, we have a request for proposals out there for the solid waste to be contracted out. What effect does our adding this have on that request for proposal that's out there?
None at all.
Why not?
Because you're operating out of the proceeds of the fund anyway. And what we're gonna have in the solid waste fund, it's like a franchise charge on the customers, or that the vendor, whatever vendor is, will pay that franchise fee, if you will. And that money will be used to operate what their portion of the service fund is, as well as this.
So that will not mean that they will go up on their rates to our citizens
No.
just to fund this?
No, ma'am, it's already there, it's already being funded. There's a surplus in the solid waste fund now,
Okay.
which includes landfill, by the way. So you have those landfill funds, and I would glad to separate that out one more. But anyway, it was not going to impact that at all.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay, going on.
Well, you know, the only thing that concerns me about this whole thing is that there's a resolution to do that tonight, and I understand have to call a meeting. And I know that we will have to vote on that, right?
Yes, ma'am, and the reason for that is that the bids for the reparation or renovation of the mine are only good until the 22nd of July.
I know, yeah.
If we could get those extended to August 31st, but to do that, it would cost us an additional $16,000. So, and at the BDA meeting Tuesday, the consensus from that group was to go ahead and move forward with this and get it done. So,
Well, my concern is that the public has had no time to make input into this matter. And I don't know that anybody would, but, I mean, this is the first we've had it explained tonight, and the public's had no chance. to make input. Maybe there's somebody in the audience who would like to make input, I don't know.
Just a comment, and I know
Yeah.
everybody probably already knows and understands this. City Hall supports all 5 of those funds.
I know
That's
that,
what it's
I
all
do know
about.
that.
And all 5 of them funds are sharing costs, and only $56,000 a year is coming from tax dollars. That's the beauty of what he's been,
Right, I understand that.
so that's all.
Thank you for making that comment, I forgot to include that.
Well, is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a comment? Or maybe, can you ask for that, Mr.?
I'll ask for that, but first I'll ask Mr. Attorney, is it okay if I do that, or should we wait for the call meeting to do that?
Well, you go ahead, I mean, this is a discussion item, and I think that it would be appropriate if anybody has anything else to say about it.
And we'd be under the same guidelines, you'd have 5 minutes, and the next person that would talk about the same thing would have 3 minutes. Okay, well, I think I saw Mr. Starr raise his hand. Mr. Charles, if you'll come, well, you can stand like that. It's
That's all right,
okay.
I come up where you can hear me.
Okay.
I'm Charles Steyer, and I live at 410 North Park. I even have a Save the Mind Facebook page, so that tells where I stand on the issue.
Okay.
And I've been waiting to see what the outcome of this is. I very strongly support doing this. The Mayan needs to be restored. It's just so important. I think the downtown, I remember what downtown was like when that building was a slum, and it really revitalized the whole city when that got rebuilt. And I'm sure that our whole family strongly supports this for the greater downtown as well as just for the city building.
You know, Charles, I'll add to it, it's kind of a beach spot. We were known all over, you know, for the beauty of that thing. You know, to bulldoze it down and make a parking lot just wasn't really an option. Now, at first, it was gonna be $5 or $6 million to do it. Now, that was crazy, but we got it way on down.
Well, you know, Mayor,
Thanks, Charles.
Okay, thank you.
we talked about this earlier, even if you wanted to demo that building.
No, I don't really mind misunderstand me, that's not what
All I'm
I
saying
said.
is,
Yeah,
not you per se, but even if the decision was made to take that building down,
right,
it would cost you between $500,000 and $750,000
That's right.
dollars.
sure.
Because you got to rebuild that end wall for the adjacent property owner. And all of the electrical, all the fire suppression systems and everything have to be moved to support that building because they all come through that line basement.
And we have to thank this for requesting a second opinion in the initial round. Thank you, honestly, we do. Thank you.
All right, well, we'll move forward and, go to the next item. Resolution requesting for an extension of the contract with Paul and Jenkins. Would you like to?
We are requesting to extend the contract, they gave us a proposal, and it was for 3 to 5 years, and we're asking to extend it for 2 years. Where we could go ahead and start with the fiscal year 13 audit, and as far as bringing them back to the 14 audit. The original audit they have, was, a little bit more expensive because it was their first time, and usually the first time you audit, you have lots of work that has to be put into pulling together all the documents and getting familiar with the city and that sort of thing. But they are proposing that the audit fee be $40,000 for the next 2 years.
How much?
$40,000.
Is that an increase?
No, this year was 75 initially, and then we had a $10,000 amendment to that because of the additional hours that was required this year to actually complete the audit.
Mr. Attorney, where do we get into this thing? You got local people that do audits too. Now, we're gonna just automatically bypass the system as far as taking bids because they're already working here.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I know where you're going with that, and I'm all about keeping work local, but under the circumstances that we're operating under right now, we really need to make sure that we have our books in order. And if it would please council, I would really appreciate it if we could at least stay with this company for 2 more years and then move forward if we have to with rebidding it. The proposal that they've given us is actually, what, 20-something thousand less than the previous auditor?
It was how much?
About 20-something, 30-something thousand, about $30-something thousand
Less
less
than
than the
previous.
previous auditor.
And that's
What
compared
we're
to
paying the
apples.
previous auditor a year, how much?
65 on them.
And so we basically paid the department 85 so far.
Well, we paid them 85 this year because it was the first year. Any new auditor you bring in, it will be more expensive. Once they come in and they set up all of their books and get familiar with the city and set up all of their files, and then they can come back in and not have as much work to do, not have as many hours to put in, and pick up and go forward a lot easier than if you bring a new firm in.
Can we just go 1 year instead of 2?
I think we're gonna find that, it's gonna take at least 2 more years, 2 more cycles, if you will.
Well, a year ago, when we were talking about this, you know, we talked about bringing in somebody for 1 year, let them clean the books up
Yeah.
for 1 year, and then putting it back out to bids for anybody who wanted to do it.
Well,
So what
I think
happened to that?
I think it took them a year just to get to where they could understand that the books, it was such a mess that, and I may be speaking out of turn here, Larry, but it was so bad that it took that long to at least get to zero where they could start to begin. It wasn't an audit.
Oh, I know he's a wreck, I know.
But
I would
it
just
wasn't
like
even
to,
at a point where they could audit it.
Can I make one comment? The standard, and I know it's not necessarily appropriate to always go by the standard, but normally when we go out for an RFP for auditing, banking, it's a 3-year period. And last year, when we brought it to you all, we requested a 3-year period. And it was agreed that we would do 1 year to kind of get things cleaned up. We go to another one, we're going to be paying a very large sum again because it's going to be another new auditor.
I would feel better if we at least put it out there and gave an option. And then, you know, Ball and Jenkins is still the cheapest thing, they're the cheapest. But at least give anybody, not the local, maybe somebody else that's out of town wants to bid on it.
I respect your opinion, but the staff recommendation is to go with these guys because we really need this assistance to get this straightened out permanently.
We've only touched the surface, and there's new guidelines that's coming out, and we have not set up the procedures that we need to set up, and there's still work to be done.
We've got a contract with them right now for 1 year, right? But there's not an automatic renewal clause in there, is that right? We have to vote on it?
Yes.
What about 1 year?
Well,
And then we can decide again.
they gave us the
Proposal is-
original proposal, they said they'll give us the 3 years at 40,000, correct me if I get wrong, Lois.
That's
We
correct.
said that, Duncan County's gonna buy that, will you do 2? And they said they would give us the same price for 2 years rather than the 3 years. So we've done,
Well, we're their customer, they're not ours.
that's correct.
So
but,
we need to, you know,
But, Mr. Parrott, if you will, we need to make sure that when we turn this over to someone else, you know, I've got an minimum finance record, the city, need to have these books right, and we don't need to be bouncing from auditor to auditor.
how long is it gonna take to get these books right?
2 years, we can have them.
How long did it take to get them screwed up as they were?
Well,
15.
years. Well, that's a long time, but we gotta be realistic
They are
here.
not, so they're gonna take them.
And we
I don't think you
Yeah, this
question
is
2
something
years.
that's just happened over the last.
Right. It didn't just
I
happen.
mean, I'm not questioning the fact that it's screwed up, it has been screwed up. What I am saying is, we've got a full team of people that work for the city, we're paying, and we pay these people $85,000. Where have we gotten so far? In other words, what's the percentage of cleanup have we done before? That's all I'm asking.
Well, we have cleaned up a lot.
So how much more do we have to go? Another 2 years, 3, 1,
We have
5?
cleaned up a year of
15.
work I came in October, and in 9 months, we have cleaned up a year of work, and we have also caught up the fiscal year 13 through May. So we've cleaned up, that's just reconciling bank statements and balance sheet accounts. That's not setting up procedures and training staff to get to work on the preliminary audit and make accruals and all of those things that are required before the auditors ever even get here.
I can probably go on for 1 year, like Mary Ann said.
But we don't know that they would give it to us in 1 year for $40,000.
Not at that price.
The other thing is it's, the audit is required by the state of Georgia by December 31st, and we're not in compliance with that right now, and we need to get in compliance with that.
Lois, your recommendation is to go with 2 years.
My recommendation is to go with 2 years. We're wanting to start right away on the fiscal year 13 audit. We could do that with those auditors. We could turn right around and start, hopefully get them in, get an audit out before the end of the year this year. We may not get any procedures set up, but then we start working towards setting up procedures. We've been setting up funds, we've been setting up accounts, we've been doing all of that to account for the funds of the city of Tifton in the appropriate way.
Lois, let me ask you,
Okay?
what long you gonna stay with us? I know you're on
Sorry.
long. I know you're on long.
I got her handcuffed to me.
It makes a difference in my vote, how long you gonna stay with us?
I will stay, I have promised Mr. Ryder that I will stay until we get it running smooth and the workflow is running smooth.
Cause all
Yeah,
that's
how
for
long
naught
that
if you
takes.
don't stay here and finish what we got started.
I
You've
understand.
got a blessing.
Well,
And, I
Thank you.
can't see going along with 2 years and then you vacate and somebody new, we gotta retrain.
well, we're cross-training also in finance. We're cross-training the people that are here. We're hiring new people. We're cross-training them as well. And everybody is being cross-trained on the various duties. And they all seem to be very enthused about learning and going forward. So I think that's a good sign.
Well, I apologize to you for putting you on the spot.
No, that's
You've
okay.
got you have just a blessing.
Absolutely, and as our blessing, I think we need to follow your recommendation. So,
But
is
that's
there
what I
a
was
question?
getting at.
Well, and I don't have a problem with the current auditors, I'm not saying that at all.
Oh,
My
no.
initial thing was, I would just, if I was a local group, I would feel like, well, there you go now. I thought a year ago, I read the
That's right.
newspaper,
I agree with
everything
that.
else, that this was for a year, and then they were gonna open it up. That's what
Yeah, I
the
know.
local business owners are gonna be thinking.
Well,
It's,
unfortunately, I didn't realize that we were gonna find what we found when we got up there.
Nobody
just
realized
didn't
that.
That's true. That's true.
And firms that are in this type of business, they know what the normal standard, time frame is. They know it's very costly up front that first year, so they can expect that it's not gonna happen again for a couple of years. We couldn't afford it to do it every
No,
year.
it's a lot of money for a dag
All right, let's move on. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
This is for a workshop.
Workshop, but it's on
Oh.
the call meeting
Wait
now.
a minute, it's on the call meeting. That's right.
Mr. Mayor,
I
just read it.
Go into the call meeting.
You're ready.
She did, it's the lady back there with her hand.
Could I make a comment?
Now, comment on what?
The auditing? Your discussion that you were just having on that subject.
Okay.
Okay.
Be brief.
I will. I'm Eloise Steyer, 410 North Park, and from observing the city over the 30-some years I've lived here, and observing the audit process out at the veterinary diagnostic lab, the 30 years I worked there, I would like to say I highly support and recommend having an outside firm do the auditing.
That's what we got.
Yeah, and I would like to see that continue, someone from outside of the immediate area of Tifton and Tifton County. I think you will eliminate a lot of possible, what do you call it, confusion, temptation, and other things by doing that.
I think you just said we're all drugs. No, I'm good. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Okay. Okay. Well, I apologize for wanting to run to the vote and do the call meeting. So next is number 6. Ordinance providing for the amendment of chapter 6, alcoholic provisions of the code of ordinance. We vote on that tonight, too?
Smith, we go down to this, I asked, Ms. Jones to go ahead and speak since she was out of town. It's item number 5 on the resolution concerning the Sunday alcohol sales. One of the things that we did was we did put in the paper that we would be discussing this tonight, and we also let people know that we'd be discussing it again at the regular session. And so we kind of invited folks here in the event they want to speak as to Sunday sales. So I'd like to kind of open that up to anybody that may,
Sure.
want to talk about Sunday sales and let you give them.
In any manner. Yeah, thank you.
Is there anyone here that wants to talk about Sunday sales? Mr. Williams?
Well,
Come on up here, Mitch.
having a sports bar, you naturally, I would love to see Sunday sales because it's going to really increase the business. I've had Sunday football and all that. I've had hundreds of people when y'all announced that this could possibly happen. I talked to Mr. Spearman, and he told me he's going to get the tourism association behind it. It sort of got out. And we're way behind everybody else on this anyway. Everybody around here has restaurants and everything with Sunday sales. And it would, I don't remember who said it, but maybe the lady from the restaurant, it would increase business a lot in Tifton. It would increase the revenue, and it definitely would help our business. I know, I see some other business owners in here, local restaurant type bars. The only thing, is this just speaking of this, could I go ahead and, I noticed a couple of things in here, which.
Mitch, let me stop you right there. You'll get 5 minutes.
I won't, that's why I'm trying to go fast.
I got you.
I seen where, about the armbands, and that's all great. I don't have a problem with that, I already do that anyway. The only thing I didn't see in there was what time you wanted to start doing the armbands, for people under 21. Because I have to pay somebody to stand at the door to do this, and I don't want to start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when nobody comes in to 8 or 9. And if y'all could, put something in there saying you have to start doing it by 8 o'clock or 4 o'clock, everyone, y'all decide. But I want to address that.
Okay.
And plus, I noticed here that where you doing the, what a restaurant is, it says you can't be a restaurant if it's done, if you provide music or other types of entertainment or permit dancing.
Huh?
That's what it says. Well, I do all that, and that's because I was asked to do it.
I'll have to take a look at what you're looking at.
Yeah, that's
What
what
page are you on?
Page 39.
I think one of the things that make sure everybody understands, when we talk about Sunday sales, that under state law, the only people that can sell alcohol on Sundays, other than retail package sales, are people that have at least 50% food sales annually. That's required by state law.
Okay.
But, I mean, if that applies, I don't need to sell food because I couldn't do it anyway.
Right,
But I do
yeah.
provide bands. I had probably 10 or 12 little girls come up the other day. They were 18, 21. They said, Mr. Williams, can we come in and at least dance? As long as you don't try to drink, we gave them an armband. People just want entertainment, especially young people. And I try to provide a nice establishment for them to come in and do it. I have people at the door checking. I have people walking around, make sure nothing's going on. I've been open a year and hadn't had one fight. Hadn't had any trouble. And most of y'all see my place. It's a nice place.
I think what,
But if that's in there, I don't even need to try to do anything.
my recollection is that probably came from the Athens, Clark County ordinance. And what I think what they're trying to do when you talk about Sunday sales is that, Sunday sales are designed for restaurants. Now, Mitch, who, runs, your place, I mean, and we had talked about it on the table, I could see where, Sunday afternoon football games. But that means that you have to meet that 50% food requirement annually under state law.
Right.
But I mean, I can see what I don't think that should exclude you, right?
Well, that's just what I wanted to make sure of tonight, because if it does, it runs me.
Why can't we just take that E out?
We probably can.
Okay.
And the other thing that Mitch was addressing was, talking about the 18-year-olds. As you read through the proposal, we have one that says, okay, 21-year-olds only. And then you're gonna consider whether or not you want to allow 18-year-olds, with this armband idea. And when you look at the 18-year-olds being allowed to go into this type of establishment, that came from the Valdosta ordinance, basically, is how they, marshal that.
But we already put armbands on people that can drink. If you don't have an armband, you can't order something to drink.
Okay.
Well, we do that to the adults, but now if y'all want to put them on people under, I don't care. I mean, 21 to 18, that's fine. They're only a little bit expensive, not enough. But I just want to make sure of that I was getting all this right. How you gonna do it? That part there killed me.
Yeah. Well, I understand, we'll get that squared away.
Okay, I appreciate it. Oh, and I appreciate y'all looking into all these new ordinances too.
Yes, sir.
I've got a question about it.
Okay.
I do have a couple of questions. If you look on page 52,
So would you like to go ahead now and just kind of open up the discussion for items 5 and 6? We'll talk about the entire ordinance and some of the sales.
Yes, let's open up 5 and 6.
Okay, what page, Marianne?
52, if everybody, I want to know if B, C, D, and E are just definitions.
Wait, let me get there. I'm sorry.
You've got two definitions, food caterer and licensed alcoholic beverage caterer.
Yes.
And I want to know if B, C, D, and E are not just further definitions, which definitions are all under O. So if they are definitions, you need to change them from B, C, D, and E.
You
and
say
just
page
list them.
52?
Yeah.
Mine goes from page 51 to 54. I don't have a 52 or a 53.
I'll share mine with you right here. But look at that, and see, and then it would just be renumbering through the rest of that.
Okay, now they were putting them on. Never mind.
So look at that and see, maybe I'm wrong, but I think they're definitions.
You're correct. I mean, really, the only definition that section is the food caterer and licensed alcoholic beverage caterer. The other ones really are defined, are not definitions. So I think you have to make that change.
Well, I think it's just a matter of renumbering. But I would like to ask Mr. Bubba Harrison, who I gave a copy of this to earlier, last night, if he's got any comments about this section on caterers, because I know you and Mr. Williams.
Yeah, page 53, you'll turn over there, Jimmy, if you get one.
Okay.
I guess it would be Roman numeral 3, about midway the page. Any an event permit may be refused by the city manager or is designated for any one of the following reasons. Number 2 says criminal record of host or caterer. I have absolutely no control on the bride's mother who contracted for the event, and I find out she's got a criminal record. She is the host.
Right.
If Julie Smith contracts with my company to provide alcoholic beverage for her daughter's wedding reception, and you find out she has a criminal record, why should I be punished?
The permit is going to be given.
Julie, I've used you for it.
Thank you for explaining that for example purposes, discussion purposes.
The person who is applying for the permit is the alcohol caterer. So if the caterer.
Which would be me applying for the permit to serve alcohol at her wedding reception.
Okay. So one of the considerations that the city manager can take under consideration whether or not to allow you to cater that event is whether or not you have a criminal record.
So he's gonna do a background check on the host?
No,
on
On you.
On me? But why does it say or?
But it says host or caterer.
It says or host.
Well, this is coming out of the current ordinance that we have.
That we can take out those.
Just take out
Red, I
host
thought
and
it
say
was
caterer.
proposed. I thought black was current, red was proposed. It sounds to me like y'all done a lot of copying of other towns and put no thought into our own ordinance. I keep hearing Athens, Valdosta, Lake City Salt Lake City for advertising sign. I don't hear anything about something written for Tifton.
Well, we
Now,
have.
this all
This is
that's,
from Tifton. What you're reading right now is the current ordinance.
except the red, this is an addition, right?
What I did, I took, this whole catering section, the first part, is, I can't recall where I got that from, but as far as when you go to the event permit, that is all what we have currently.
So that really should be a black, but you renumbered it, so that's why it's in red. Well,
But we did ask to look at other towns that have similar
Sure.
ordinances and all that we're
I don't
working,
think
and that's what
we
we.
need to just duplicate what somebody else is doing.
Sorry.
We're totally different.
I can assure you that the probably 40 hours that we spent with our
Oh, I don't
attorney
doubt it, I don't doubt it. That costs a lot of money.
took a lot into consideration.
Lawyers don't work cheap, I understand.
Well, I was trying to address the issue about doing stuff specifically for Tifton, but then during our discussions, I actually called Mr. Williams when we were working through this with the attorney to make sure that we were trying to get it right. So yes, there have been a lot of discussion and issues regarding Tifton specifically to put in this ordinance.
You know, when it says criminal record of the host or caterer, I said that's in our current ordinance. I mean, I guess I can understand that if some host is, you know, thug, you may not want to let him cater an alcohol event, and that could be a consideration.
yeah, but that would mean we'd have to do a criminal background check on everybody.
If they want to
That
cater
would
a
be-
party.
Yeah, no, that's that expensive.
That's my point.
Well, I mean, okay, well, whatever y'all want to do. I
In
can
a
take
perfect world, that'd be great. I don't understand.
Yeah, just take out host.
That makes
Just
a lot
general
of sense.
consistency.
Host is the only word I had a problem with.
In the whole thing, in this,
Yeah,
red,
on that whole page, that's the only.
all right. And you're looking at pages 52, 51 through 52, okay?
51 through 53.
Actually, the top part of 54.
Yes.
Well, thank you for studying that carefully, both of you.
Well, can I ask one more question? I'm probably sure my 5 minutes is up, but those hours that's gonna be redone, when will that take effect if y'all vote on it? The Saturday is what I'm mostly concerned about.
Well, the public's gonna have to vote on it in
It
November.
has to go to referendum in November.
Not on the hours.
I'm sorry.
If this ordinance is adopted in August, then those provisions that don't deal with Sunday sales take
Okay,
effect.
we'll take it, okay.
And it says,
Excuse me, I have requested 30 days because we're going to have to modify some forms and things of that nature and make a few changes within our licensing
so we
system.
make an effective date September 1 to give Rhonda time to do what she needs to do. And of course, the Sunday sales may or may not
That's
take
right,
effect depending on
right.
the result of the referendum.
Okay.
My other comment, Ms. Cassie, would be, I don't know how enforceable some of this stuff is. I don't know if you understand how extensive catering is. When are most wedding receptions? Saturday night. Is there anybody on staff that works on Saturday night? How do you know that Covington's from Valdosta doing an event at the Art Center on Love Avenue is licensed, is following the ordinance, and playing by the same rules? Who enforces it, other than they come to Rona for a permit? What if they don't come for a permit? How do you know? What if you have this in your backyard? It looks like your intent is good, but I just don't see how you can police and enforce, and if any of this would hold up before law.
Mr. Harrison, a lot of this, it is an issue of enforcement. But a lot of this is required to be in our ordinance because it's required by the state of Georgia. If you look at the state of Georgia code for catering, a lot of what we've tried to do is make it a little more business friendly for the businesses. And we've tried to make it as minimalistic as what the state law requires.
And it's appreciated.
And that's a lot of what's here. It's here because the state makes us put it there. And, you know, we enforce it to as much as what we hear from our area restaurants, what they let us know. You know, it brings to us an awareness. And of course, when there's obvious issues, you know, with an event. We can't completely enforce it. I mean, you're absolutely
Most of
right.
your information is after the fact.
A lot of it is after the fact, but it brings us some awareness that when something happens at a facility, we do call them up and say, look, you can't do that anymore. Please make sure you do it this way from now on.
And one of my concerns is the University of Georgia Conference Center, which I still have doubts of whether or not you can enforce anything.
I realize that. And the only thing that I can say to you is that I spoke specifically with David Dial, who worked for the Department of Revenue, Alcohol and Tobacco, and was over that division. He retired about 2 months ago, and specifically asked him about the University of Georgia, and he said they have to be permitted. So that's the only thing that I have to go on. I don't know that
They have
we've
to
been
be
able,
permitted by who?
by the local government and by the state. See, the state is the one that says, you have to have a permit from us, from the state, but you can't get a permit from us, the state, until you get it from your local government.
David Adams' office is telling me that you have to have state permit, and it's to be treated similar to an Indian reservation, and you have no, do they get building? Let me ask you this, have you ever issued a building permit to ABAC?
I don't work in that, I
Yes,
have
you
no
know.
idea.
Never have.
I have, you know what, we have been looking and researching that,
You don't have it.
and
We don't get building permits from the hospital authority either, nor do we get building permits for the Board of Education. They're a quasi-separate government.
And is the Board of Regents, which
Well,
is
you
back
used
in
to
my
do on
original
Saturday
comment.
night to close at 12 o'clock.
Back in
and they have
April when I
to
asked the
close, so
question.
we got to change.
and we have
all
been
this
researching
stuff.
that. And I hope we find a clause that says, we don't have to worry about them anymore.
I talked to the state as well, and they've emailed me back, they said municipalities, license, all facilities within their, jurisdiction. There is one code section that deals with the conference center of the UGA, where the state specifically lists the conference center sell alcohol. There's a specific statute.
Now, that's the one in Athens, right?
That's right. They specifically have one statute created for Georgia Tech, so their conference center can sell alcohol at Georgia Tech. But those are just carved out little exceptions by statute, by the legislature, authorizing the UGA and Georgia Tech to sell alcohol. I can't see any authority anywhere else in the code dealing with alcohol that allows any other school, facility, Board of Regents to do that.
The two facilities that we use are UGA Tifton Conference Center and Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College,
Agron.
and those two were carved out, as I was told.
Well, UGA and Georgia Tech was, only because their conference center can sleep 200 people and feed 400. That's,
So you're telling me
in order for you
anybody-
to get that exception, you gotta be able to sleep 200 and feed 400.
What does Tech have? I don't know
Pardon?
Tech. Does Tech
I wish
have a
we did.
facility like a
I
college?
assume they do, because they
I
have
still
very
would
similar
like to see
statute
this
for
rather than being
technical
told.
college.
Well, can you get that in writing, or can
It's
you?
right, I can show you the statute.
Well, I think I'd like to see that. And I know Mr. Harrison would like to see it.
Yeah, it has a huge effect with Terrell and Kevin,
But I'm saying,
with the alcohol.
we either got to change the office, or we got some, I remember when 12 o'clock on Sunday night, you couldn't sell no alcohol, period. In
Oh, I
Tech.
remember when
But
you
now,
had to crank the car
wait,
before
hold
too,
on,
and
let me
that was
finish, you
fine.
can, but now you want to stay open 2 o'clock.
I don't have an alcohol.
But see, I do, no, I ain't saying you did, but I remember when 12 o'clock at night come, you had to close, you couldn't sell no alcohol business. Now everybody wants to stay open 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and sell out, so you got to change all the offices to catch up with this. We can't keep this going, we can't keep the same office and everybody doing what they want to do. I mean, because I mean, seriously, I remember when 12 o'clock on Monday night, you couldn't sell no alcohol after 12 o'clock. Because the police came and closed it down. On Friday night, you couldn't get, and especially Saturday night, you had to be out of the building and gone by 12 o'clock. If you had an alcohol, if you sold beer. And now you got all the alcohol permits and all this, and you want to stay open 2 o'clock. So the only way to do that It's to keep them just looking out there, is change the whole, go through the office, man, what you think? Just go through all the offices and change them. Not to just accommodate a very few, but to change all the offices. So that, everybody, is governed by the same rule.
I want to ask you a question while they're discussing that. I want to make sure that we're, this ordinance, as it's presented, still allows us to have special events, for example, for Crest Festival, where they have the beer sales and everything, so we're still good. And if we wanted to do a first Friday event downtown or something, and serve, have somebody serve. Still a sponsor. I can't just go to the park and have a party, but if it's a festival or.
If you have to, but you can't, that's correct, because it's a city design.
Right, right. But if it's a festival, or a special event that the city.
I missed your whole conversation looking at the statute. Can y'all give me a?
I was just saying, it was important to me to be able to have, for example, the Turf Grass Festival, where they had the bands and the alcohol sales in the park. I wanted to make sure we weren't doing something that removed that ability to do that. That we were still able to do that, or if we wanted to have a First Friday event, where we have a special event downtown and the restaurants are open, and I can, you know.
I know that you all haven't had the opportunity to look at the changes. But, over the next 2 weeks, you will have that opportunity. And what you're going to find, I hope, is that it is much more business friendly. We've tried to remove a lot of unnecessary regulations that are in there. We've removed happy hour regulations as much as we possibly can. If there's anything still in there, it's only because it's required by the state of Georgia. We can't make it more lenient, we can make it stricter. And that is not what we set out to do. We set out to make it easier for our local establishments, be it restaurant, lounge, or whatever it is, to do business. One of the things that you will notice in there is in Mitch Williams' case, where he has come before us on a few occasions needing an event permit. As long as what he has submitted to us has been approved, then he does no longer have to, he can go to Larry. Well, we're requesting that as long as he, as an alcohol beverage holder licensee, has been approved, and our location meets all of the criteria administratively, then he should not have to come back to council because he's having something at a different location. Okay? We would have something akin to, okay, the police will sign off so they know it. Public Works will sign off just to make sure there's no issues.
And Larry can approve.
And Larry will approve it.
So the city would just tell him that, that's why it's coming.
In other words, he only comes to us once a year to have to provide for special events. Now, he'll have to come and pick that. He'll have to pick the permit up, but he only has to come to council once a year.
That makes you happy, Mr. Williams?
Well, there was a clause in there also about per site, if the site was changed. Remember this happened during the.
Yes, sir, but we're requesting that that be changed.
Okay, so you
That
can
if
have.
you're an alcohol license holder and you're approved for a location, then for the balance of the year, wherever you go, you come get your permit and it's administratively approved. You don't have to go to council. But you do have to get your permit. And the reason you have to get a permit.
By site?
Yeah, by site. And the reason you have to do that is because the state requires it.
UGA has two places they allow alcohol, University Conference Center and Black Chain Farm. The ABAC has two, Golf Course and Agawam. If they change it due to inclement weather, it's too late to have it.
Denise, did you want to speak?
By side is
I mean, those are, I don't know what to tell you.
I was just asking Ms. Rona, would it be appropriate, I have concerns and questions about a lot of the ordinances, and rather than hash this out and everybody have to brush through the pages and all that, isn't it appropriate, like I usually do, can I email you and you kind of send it around
We have done
before
that.
August?
We sent it to you 3 times.
No, I mean, no.
Oh, after the finalized?
Yeah, no, like,
Oh.
like tonight, can I go home and just email you my concerns?
Oh,
Is it-
sure.
And then you send it around, everybody has plenty of time,
Absolutely.
and can look at it that way.
Absolutely.
That way, if they say, what's she talking about, they can kind of brush through the information, instead of doing this back and
We
forth.
did send it to as many area restaurants. We have a pretty good email list, and we
Yes.
send it out to everyone.
Yeah, Denise is with the
You
bug.
brought it to me, thanks. I just thought it would be more efficient, and more articulate for me to express my concerns to you in an email. That way you can read it, go to the paper, and do it that way.
Denise, you
Would
can
that
call,
be
you can
fine?
call me if you want to.
Okay, thanks, I'll send you an email.
Yeah.
Because I got it listed, then I got it randomly jotted down, and now I can't read my own writing. I can do it that way, I thought it would work best for me, and probably for everyone.
Absolutely.
Just send me
I'm gonna put my pajamas on. Thank you so much, thanks.
All right, thank you. Our next thing is, I know this is gonna be
Can I
quick.
ask you a question? And I kind of missed out on some of the conversations, but one of the things that we're going to be presenting this in August was there's a couple of things in there about options. And one of them had to do with the 21-year-old versus the 18-year-old option. And I think that's an item that you all need to try to discuss as to how do you want to handle that? Do you want, because the way it is right now, unless you're a restaurant, then you have the option that only 21-year-olds can go in to a place that serves alcohol. Or or you can have the option where 18-year-olds can go in, but they'll be getting the armband, and the 20-year-olds will be getting the stand. So
That's if they have the restaurant, 50% of the restaurant.
no, that's different. I mean, a restaurant, if you're a restaurant, anybody can go in. Okay? But if you
And
don't
if you're a
meet,
restaurant that sells alcohol, anybody can go in.
correct.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Now, if you don't meet the definition of a restaurant, which means that you do not meet that 50% food requirement, then in order for you to go into an establishment that sells alcohol, you either have to be 21 years old, that's one option, or you can go in if you're 18, but you're going to get an armband, and the 21-year-old's going to get a stand. So the question is, do you want people who are between the ages of 18 and 21 to go into an establishment that serves alcohol but is not a restaurant? That's the question.
Can we back up for a second on this topic?
We've already done this before.
Okay. If you all, none of you were with us when we changed and brought distilled spirits on board. But what they did in that ordinance was specifically require anyone who had a distilled spirits license to have at least 50% food sales. So anybody who wanted to have a distilled spirits license had to have a full-fledged restaurant. And that was because they did not want standalone bars, okay? Well, we have standalone bars in beer and wine establishments. They're still bars, they're standalone bars. So instead of creating a venue that kept young people out, we created a venue that allows any child at any time of the day to go into an establishment that has distilled spirits, whether they're really a restaurant or not. So what we're proposing is that we remove that food requirement, still allow those folks to have distilled spirits. And then you make the choice, do you want just 21-year-olds to go in there? Or do you want to allow 18-year-olds in a place like Mitch Williams has, so they can go in and listen to the music and dance or whatever?
And they're college students who are.
Exactly. But you're also protecting that group that Mr. Terrell has problems with. He has young people going into some establishments in his district.
The unintended consequences was that you had people who are having the facade of being a restaurant by saying it's only 50% food when they really aren't. And then you have 14, 15, 16-year-olds going into those establishments and staying until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And so that was the unintended consequences of what happened when you allowed the distilled spirits in a restaurant, because other people say, I'm a restaurant, when they really aren't. So what we're looking at doing now is, calling a spade a spade. Your bar or your restaurant. If you're a bar, then you can sell distilled spirits, beer and wine. You don't have to
Just can't sell on Sunday.
and you don't have to meet this food requirement, but only 21-year-olds can go in, or 21-year-olds and 18-year-olds for the non-members. Okay? Sundays are different. Remember, on Sundays, in order for you to sell alcohol on Sundays, you have to meet that 50% food requirement. That's state law.
Annually.
Annually. You gotta have that 50% food requirement annually in order for you to sell alcohol on Sundays. That's required. So that's what I'm saying. That I think there is a real choice here when you start talking about, if you put restaurants aside from it, and you start talking about establishments that are not restaurants but serve alcohol. Do you want, strict, say 21-year-olds, period, or you want to allow for 18-year-olds to go in? And one of the things we've tried to do in this ordinance is try to talk about entertainment establishments. And that's when we'll start talking about, those are the places that we want to let the 18 and 21-year-olds in. Not these places that are just, drinking establishments. This place that, music, entertainment, karaoke, those type of things where we can allow those 18-year-olds to go into those type of entertainment establishments so they can be entertained, but not necessarily just these, going to the Elks Lodge or whatever and drink. So that's what we're looking at, and I think it's, there's a lot of considerations. Naturally, enforcement's always an issue when you talk about that.
Rich?
Well, having several bars overpassed until, I would suggest what he's saying is, that's great. I think if you're just gonna be a bar or entertainment thing, just don't let anybody in on 18, I mean, regardless.
Under 18 or 21.
Under 18, if they provide entertainment. If it's just a joint, honky-tonk, they don't do nothing but just get drunk in there, and that's all they do is no entertainment, just go in there and drink. I don't think you ought to allow them to have anybody under 18.
But Mitch, that's true.
And I don't let nobody in there, and I serve food.
But what we're talking about is not really the under 18s. What we're talking about here is take your establishment, and let's say hypothetically you don't meet the 50% food requirement.
Right.
Okay? Then that would mean that either the council says only 21-year-olds can go into Mitch's bar, or 18-year-olds can go into Mitch's bar, but they can't drink, and they're going to get an armband. So I mean, the low 18 really is not the issue. We're starting to concentrate on, do we want to have 18-year-olds going into entertainment establishments? And I think that we've had a lot of conversations about this.
Yeah, right now, if you were not a food establishment, nobody under 21 can go in your place. But as long as you have that restaurant license, yes, sir, right now.
But,
But we're looking at 18.
I understand, and like I say, I don't really have a problem. I don't know, it's just people don't do it, but the only time I have anybody under 18 in there is during the afternoons. Some fathers, families come there and shoot pool, play darts, stuff like that, but I've never had any trouble, and I don't know anybody else has, anybody want to come in there later on. Nobody comes out and Tifton 10:30 or 11 if they're coming out drinking, believe me.
But without putting you on the spot, I mean, do you have problems with people under 21 drinking?
No. Not yet. Not yet. But like I say, I hired somebody at the front door. I hired somebody else to walk around to check them, and if they don't have on an armband, we see them with a drink in their hand, they're gone.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And that, so if you're thinking about, allowing an 18-year-old to go into some entertainment establishment, if what Mitch is saying is true, and he's able to enforce that adequately, and you're not having these 18 to 21-year-olds drinking, then you can have that group of folks be able to go into an establishment and be entertained, like either go see a band or whatever.
We've got to be able to provide, there's a significant population of 18 to 21-year-olds.
You eliminate A-Bank if you.
Yeah, and so, to be able, I mean, my kids, when they were 18 to 21, now they were probably drinking, that's another story, but they, to be able to go somewhere and say, look, there's a great live band, I want to go listen to the band, I put my armband on, that's fine, I'm going to hang out with my buddies, facilities, we need to be able to provide them the opportunity to do that. And if, you know, if it's not policed and it becomes a problem, then we have protocol to deal with that. So,
Could I make one suggestion about the armband? I think you need to add something in the ordinance that if you issue an armband to a person that's under 21, believe me, if that's happening, that you're liable for what punishment you want to give the person for doing it. I know it's happening. I had 3 people in my place the other night, 3 young ladies, and they ordered drinks, and I told the bartender, I said, they don't look old enough to be rechecked. They had armbands on from another place. I'm not gonna call that place. And we went and checked them. One was 19, 2 were 18. And they ordered a drink. I said, you can't order, you're not 21. And I said, you don't even have a ban from us. So well, we got a ban from the other place. I don't care. You're not gonna drink in here. In fact, you need to leave. But they give them armbands. See, and when the police see the armbands, they automatically assume they're 21.
I think we can do that. I think what we'll do is put in here, you know, we have portions of it, if you sell alcohol to somebody under 21, you committed a crime. We'll put something that no armband shall be issued to anyone under the age of 21, and if so.
Because it's like I told the girls at the front, I said, if they don't look 20, even though they got an armband, even my person is checking, because you're at the mercy of the guy at the door checking.
Would it be, I mean, is it kind of as we develop this, is it kind of a consensus that we'll go with the 18-year-old option, and I'll go?
I would vote for 18.
Yeah. Does that sound, so, I mean, we still have to vote on this, but when I review this ordinance, as far as the option that I'll pick, let's go ahead and do the 18-year-old option with the armband and all those other precautions.
Well, let me ask you this. Are we trying to do this too soon? Do we want to wait until September instead of August?
Well,
or does that interfere with?
Well, the only reason why, naturally, if we want to get Sunday sales on the referendum, we have to have that done by our August meeting. So it can.
Okay.
Yes, the elections office has to have it
Okay.
that week.
All right.
And but to answer your question, we were looking at, while we're doing the Sunday sales, go ahead and address these issues that have been long outstanding. In fact, some of these issues we've addressed were issues we had long before we even considered Sunday sales, like the timing, the opening and closing times, things of that nature. So we were hoping that we could go ahead and get this done in one draft of an amended ordinance. But theoretically, yes, we could say we just want to deal with Sunday sales and then look at the whole shooting match.
We've had continuing problems with young folks going into restaurants for quite some time, and that's why we've been trying to get it out of us.
Do you two can deal with this kind of thing? Do you feel like you're ready for it to go?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I've been in place for a while, believe me.
I've been talking, Mitch has been communicating with you for about 6 months. Maybe
Well, when are you're gonna get the revised things, like with that E taken out and the post taken out, to us pretty soon?
Yes. I was gonna take a long weekend, because
That's fine, that's fine.
but I will get these changes made. If there's anything else that anybody else sees as you review it,
Well, that numbering thing I asked you about, wait a minute, let me look through it.
There was one thing where it had a few places where it said.
Oh, I have one question.
Was that prior, was it going to city manager prior?
Finance director.
It was finance, it used to
Okay.
fall under.
Okay, that was my question, I knew it wasn't, so I didn't know who it was, that's fine.
All right, I have another question on page 3. And the multi-purpose theater, I don't think that the TIP theater now seats 500 people. I think it's
Yes.
fewer than
It
that.
seats 612.
Okay, then that.
We had it 750 when we bought
I know that, okay, so it says 612. All right. On page 7, I've got a couple of grammatical, just omissions. The kind of thing I love to find. As an English teacher, I'll show those to you. Okay, but on page 7, when we're talking about the possession of an open container, I like the wordage. I'm looking at page 7, item G at the top, the last phrase. Other locked non-passenger area of the vehicle. I wonder if that should be changed to the words from the Merlot to Go on page 59, which is behind the last upright seat of a motor vehicle that is not equipped with a trunk.
Said page 7, what is that, G?
Yeah, G, the last, it's saying that you, an open container has to be in something locked. But the Merlot to Go that's been resealed can be in the last seat behind, in the space behind the last seat of an SUV.
I think the difference there is that the Merlot to Go is going to be sealed. You can't unseal it without it showing being unsealed. This would be basically something that's already open and then you just put behind your seat.
Okay, okay. I'm fine with that.
One of the things I just mentioned real quick in this open container, one of the things we did address was semi-private parking areas. So we've had a lot of problems with folks drinking in parking lots.
Yes.
And so what we did, we've expanded that to include these parking areas, so we don't have, even though it's not public property, we can control what's going on outside of these rigid places.
That's good.
This will help you.
Give me just a minute now. Well, I'm going to see you and show you the thing.
Rob, I know we had decided the other day that we were not going to address the requests of the salons.
Right.
We've had additional requests.
Say that
So,
again?
you know, we might.
You go get your nails fixed,
Uh-huh.
they won't be able to serve you a glass of wine while you're getting your pedicure or whatever.
Or I know where I can.
Call them, figure out how to do that,
And I'm
yes.
sure, Atlanta does it, probably Macon does it.
I thought you could get that away as long as you were something.
And, well, you know, I was thinking about that today, and
Dispensing.
you're dispensing it. You know, we just need to, I think we might want to really reconsider possibly doing something with that, because Jessica got a request just this week, right? Again, so it's becoming more and more. But, you know, I mean, I think it's like, okay, fine, a maximum, one glass of wine, something like that. You don't want to come out of the hair shop and get run over by a car.
But you know, just like I was
Of course, you're not putting good in the bond, your nails done.
I was gonna use an example, Julie was talking about going to get your wedding dress, you know, and all your friends are there, and, you know, a lot of places give you that glass of wine, and y'all sit there and look at wedding dresses.
Things are changing more and more today.
Is that a one-day permit?
That would have to be determined.
Can I furnish alcohol to the bridesmaid?
Well,
Without
if
coming up here for a
the
permit?
establishment were not selling it, if they were giving it away, would they be allowed to do it, or is not? According to this.
I don't, all of that would have to be researched. I really just don't know.
Well,
I do know there's a requirement by the state, because it came up at the conference, and it was talking about.
well, do we want to still include the Sunday sales in September? I mean, in
Except for good
August.
old boys don't drink wine.
And
Get a
so
beer,
this
I'm getting
till
oil
September,
change.
give you a chance to look at that. I don't know.
But the question, I guess, would you all like to be able to present to the voters Sunday sales this fall?
Yes.
Have a separate resolution.
Yeah, it is.
Right. So, surely that will have to be taken up at our meeting in August. That's gonna have, we're gonna have to vote on the resolution authorizing the referendum.
Right,
Right.
right.
Now, generally, the way it works is that you adopt or amend your ordinance to provide for the Sunday sales. And
Okay,
then it goes to the vote. And if it's approved, then that ordinance then will become effective.
okay.
So we have the option of just doing the Sunday sales and then put it to referendum
And then doing another ordinance.
then
Okay.
revising it again.
Or, are you wanting some additional time, Ms. Cassie?
Now, I'm just wondering, when have y'all got time to research this issue of wedding dresses and nail salons?
I can probably I can get that done by the middle of next week. We'll get an answer to that. And then
Okay.
maybe what I can do.
Is there anything else we're omitting that we
That
need
was
to be
the
thinking
only
about?
thing that I can think of that we really decided to lay aside. But then they turn around and you get a couple more requests.
I get that.
I mean, I know we're supposed to be business friendly, we're trying.
I know
We're
that.
trying to move from
All right, we need to move
enforcement
on,
to,
folks.
to a business
20 minutes to
friendly.
eight.
Then I
Go ahead
don't
and move
have
on.
any reason to
We
wait.
beat this thing to death.
Man.
Our next item is item number 7, and I do know that Julie and Chris will be brief on this. It's the update on the tourism communications. We had appointed, or I appointed those two to be on this thing. Y'all will give us a brief.
Well, let me say first,
Appreciate it.
and we'll be brief, because first off, to the people in the
Get the
audience,
highlights.
this has been kind of an unorthodox workshop. Normally, it's not run like this, but it is a working workshop. But no, I want to say that we all are on committees up here. I've been in lots of committees from Mariana and worked well together, and other folks. And I want to say that Julie has really taken the lead on this committee and done a fabulous job with it. So that was, she didn't know I was going to say that, but has dropped the bomb on her. But she really has, and I've been on a part of this as well and done my own homework and stuff, but she has really gone above and beyond. So thank you for doing that, Julie.
She's going to keep it brief. Okay.
You know I can't be brief about it.
I know.
What you think about it?
Where's my thing I hit on the...
Look, I'm gonna read this real fast, okay? First of all, we met, and the group that met wanted to know was the tourism, was the contract that the city has with the Tourism Association a viable, valid contract. We found out that yes, indeed it was, although it did need some tweaking. So our city attorney is working on that. Our next step with this group done, next step is we will be contacting the Georgia Department of Economic Development and the Georgia Department of Community Affairs to make a visit to Tifton to work with our Tourism Association and with our committee to present the information to discuss the differences between Convention and Visitors Bureau, our current situation as we're set up for, as you know, with the Tifton County Tourism Association, or any combination in between thereof. So I don't think that's been scheduled yet, but that is in the works to get that scheduled. With regard to the other committee, the local committee, the OMG committee, Outreach Marketing Group, we have talked about creating a true welcome center in Tifton. Right now we don't have a true welcome center. We've looked at maybe doing that at the Main Street office at the corner of Highway 82 and Main Street. We've talked about possibly a Georgia Artisan Center. We've talked about hiring a PR and marketing firm to create an identity cohesive with the tourism efforts of the Tourism Association. So there's a lot of work going on. It's a moving, in progress project with two committees. So while we had hoped to have everything wrapped up and done and ready to present to council in July, we're not ready to present yet. So just if you could give us a little more time to continue working, I think it's
moving.
Yes,
It's moving slow.
Very
We're
slow.
making progress.
Yes.
And we were, let's say 10 months ago with this project. It's moving along, like Julie said, a lot better. But I think when DCA comes down, it kind of answers a lot of questions. That'll make them feel a little more comfortable. And Rob and Larry was in our last meeting with those folks, and I think it worked out well. So it's moving. It's just a little slower than probably we'd like.
I have a question. On the contract, the revised contract that you have written, it's considerably different from the other one.
No.
No?
Basically, what they asked me to do was to see whether or not the existing contract was 1986?
Right.
89, whether or not that was legal. And I looked at it, and it was legal. We had to change the percentages in which the...
So this is their old contract, basically, that you've updated.
Is it their old
It's not
contract?
the first one we gave them.
Correct. So
There was some amounts wrong in there too.
Yeah.
One of their percentages.
I changed the percentages, and then we said that they were going to follow state law. And basically, when I looked at the old contract, it did have provisions in there for auditing by a certified accountant, and it had things in there that were very good for the city.
Right.
So I think that what we put in there, it wasn't in there before, but they would comply with state law. Now, a lot of things I had in my contract was basically what is required by state law. And I told them, well, if you say you got to comply with state law, so I'll put that in there and comply with state law.
Look at that. Right. That's the new one. I've got a question about the new one.
Okay.
Section, it's page 3, but it's section 6. All right, that's the percentage figures. So what are they going to be?
Right now, it is 60/40.
Right. But that's what I wanted to ask. That's based on the current figures. If the legislature changes those figures in the future,
It would change.
and so what would we do? Amend the,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
what would
basically-
you do about their contract?
As you recall, what we tried to do last year
Right.
was do the resolution to
Right.
provide for 6%, I think, or 8,
Well, yeah,
but that's not.
Ended up voting for 6.
Right.
Right.
Anyway, we did send that on to the legislature,
And-
you know, and
and
because
they
the
did
county
not.
didn't do it.
Right.
they didn't do it. So if you remember, that resolution did break it down differently than what.
right, because you have the old and the new.
Correct. And depending on the percentage, then of course you might have some going to different entities, different marketing organizations.
Basically, what we wanted to do was find out is, as it's operating today, are we in compliance with state law? And is the city okay with the old contract? And other than tweaking just a few little details of it, the consensus was, yes, we're okay. Right now, as we exist, we're compliant.
So this is
With-
right now.
With this caveat, the contract is fine.
Yes.
And the question is, you know, is the money being
Right.
spent as required in
And-
accordance with the law?
And we're still in discussion about that. And that's why we want to bring DCA and
Right,
Economic
right,
Development,
okay.
the official tourism people to Tifton to work with our committee and with the Tifton County Tourism Association to help determine that.
When do they consider, or when do you think that this contract, this new contract will be signed? Just the old one doesn't expire, I mean,
Actually, it does, I can't remember exactly when it does expire, but it renews annually. But also there is a 60-day termination provision, so you can terminate it upon 60 days notice.
I believe it expires in September.
so
Yeah,
you
I
expect the
agree.
Tourism Association to sign this?
They'll sign the old contract that's been revised, not that contract. That's revised, the one that I just did? Okay.
So what is the Tourism Association gonna sign? This-
They were okay with it at you were at the meeting with the changes that they recommended, they were okay with what you have right there.
And so I assume they would sign it at their next scheduled
Okay.
meeting.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
let's move on. We have, Julie, thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Rowland, we now have the board report, if you will, please.
I have an application from Jeffrey Daniel for the Historic Preservation Commission. And William Kelly's term has expired on the library board. I have checked the record. This will be his second full term, his first full term reappointment.
Randy, you know what, 2
And-
parts on
You can serve 3 4-year terms, which is a total of 12 years.
So you can serve 4 3-year.
I mean, excuse me, that's right.
The
she's
first
right.
time he was appointed, it was for
4
2
3-year
months
terms.
to fill
Right.
an unexpired.
that. He's on his second.
Let's see, this will be his second full reappointment. He only served 2 months that first little gap.
Right. And he's the current chairman, and
Yes.
I certainly feel he needs to be reappointed.
Where are we, Rob, on our mandatory training for HPC and Zoning?
Right around the corner.
Well, I think that's important to talk about, you know, because our HPC very plainly says somewhere
It does.
that,
Mandatory training?
right,
All of it.
mandatory training.
But there's no time
And
limit.
there are
and
others
there's
that
no-
you give, but particularly with HPC, if somebody's gonna serve on that board, they need to know what historic preservation is.
I agree, and actually Julie had mentioned that to me a week or so ago, and I will,
Another long weekend, huh, Rob?
I need to.
I'm working pretty hard this week, so we can give them a break.
I'll get that.
Right, well, we need to arrange that.
Anybody else?
That's it.
Thank you, Ron. We are now going to move on into the call meeting. We will start with item number 9. Resolution approved for the calendar year 2013 tax adjustment and levy and setting the millage rate based on the final 2013 tax adjustment. I'll accept the motion. Well, it'll just be a motion approving the.
Okay.
I move that we accept the reduce of the millage rates based on the 2013 tax digest.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
That will be 4, and I'm going to abstain. Item number 10, resolution providing for financing of the renovation of the historic mine building. Accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we provide that resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Number 11, resolution requesting approval of extension of contract with Malden and Cheatham CPA to provide auditing services for fiscal years ending June 30, 2013 and 2014. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we extend the contract for 2013 and 2014 with Walden and Jenkins to provide auditing services.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Item 12, consider a date change for a September meeting originally set for 9/2/13. The suggested changes will either be 9/3 or 9/9.
The second is Labor Day.
That's right.
Those are
And I was
just
going to mention that was
suggestions.
Labor Day. Now, I'm going to probably be out of town Labor Day. I don't go back on the 3rd, but it depends on what
I
y'all
would
want.
like to recommend the 9th. I think that's.
I
a good
agree with
time.
that.
I agree with that.
And I would like to also recommend that we then have our workshop on the 22nd rather than the 15th. Because the 22nd will be 2 weeks before the workshop.
9/22 for the,
No, 8/22.
oh.
8/22. and
Well, this is for
9/9.
September. Oh, you mean prior to?
Right.
Okay. 8/22 for workshop.
Okay, that was a motion.
I'll second that.
And I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Now, we have a minute of everybody's time.
No, we gotta go.
No, we don't. You better make it quick.
You better make it quick.
I'll make it real quick. Mr. Attorney, very late in getting the evaluation for Larry. And Vice Mayor and I had talked about this thing. We finally had to get this form squared away. I wanted 5 different columns. I didn't want just 4. And that was an agreement. But then we switched around. I lost my stuff. The computer went down. Anyway, finally got it. And this is a draft. And Marianne, I don't know how Paul used to do it. I was told that he just did it.
I don't know that.
But I don't want to just do it. I would like to hand, I've got enough copies for all 4, and I would like to hand these out. And then as soon as possible, I'd like to get all the comments back, and then I'll make my final address. I will do the evaluation by myself, but based on what all 4 others want to add. So is that legal? Is that fair? Yeah. Can I have it now? It's stapled, y'all, I'm sorry. I ran out of staplers, get the cater out.
So this is one full packet here then? Okay.
Yeah. If y'all will look over that, jot it up, you won't hurt my feelings. And of course, you'll see where I've already rated. Y'all scratch it up and just get them back to me if you will, please. I'll need
What
one
about the
back.
evaluation on Rob? That's what I'm waiting on.
That's
I don't
what
think
we
that's legal. That's not legal, huh?
And we stand adjourned. Thank y'all for sitting through this long.
Thank you for what you do.